Molabi Soviet Lahanyana, the chairperson of the Ad Hoc Committee, whose days are now numbered. And I hope that you enjoyed all the moments that we had together in this Ad Hoc Committee. We must now finish our work. The people of South Africa have waited for far too long. They want to hear what are the findings that we have made and what are the recommendations that the committee thinks can help us to reform the criminal justice
Recording
system
in progress.
Honorable members, welcome to this meeting. Good morning, Honorable Sangoni.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Kusela Lwandlekazi Nova Thembu Sangoni. Thank you so much. So lovely to see you and all honorable members.
Good morning, Honorable Kusela Sangoni.
Uzwile Skosan. Sangoni. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Honorable Ntuli.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to my fellow colleagues, honorable members, and the staff of Parliament. Long time no see, and I'm happy to see you today.
Good morning, Honorable Nhlanhla.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the members in the House and the people of South Africa as a whole. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Sokanyile.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, and the administration, that is here, and the people of South Africa.
Good morning, Honorable Mandla David Skosana.
Ngiyalibonga ahulu nganiso. Konje bathini mgcini isihlalo. Ngithokoza ne staff esikhona la namalunga weParliament ephezulu. Ngithi lothani.
Thank you so much. Honorable Breitenbach, good morning to you.
Morning, Chair. Remember, I brought you the tea so that you would move it along, not have this long, drawn-out discussion. But I just want to tell you that the newspaper has just reported that the Specialised Commissioner Crown Court has rejected the sentence in the Matlala plea bargain. Correctly so. Yes.
Yeah, but you must say it that you must say it that you, Honorable Breitenbach, you must say that you came to me and said that you disagree with the sentence.
I disagree with it on every possible level, with every fiber of my being.
Okay. Honorable Thopa, good morning.
Morning, Chairperson.
Honorable Matthijs, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Yes, let me extend greetings to the staff of Parliament.
Good morning, Tree. Good morning.
Ms. Nicolette van Zyl-Gous and Ms. Christine Silkstone. Good morning to you. Dr. Anikok, good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members.
Thank you so much. Let me see the staff of political parties represented in Parliament and in this committee. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Yes, the Office of the House Chair. How are you? Thank you so much. The members of the media, there is your corner. Good morning to you. Who are the communications people from Parliament here? Can you just raise your hands? We want to thank you for keeping the country informed through the television of Parliament and the media statements, Raja, and the pictures that you have been taking in every of our sessions. We want to thank you so much. Wanani, do we have apologies, if we can record them?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to honorable members. We have an apology from Honorable Kolabana, who could come down, pushing in case that Honorable Vessels is on a study tour, and then Honorable James will join us later. Those are the only.
Can I check with the African National Congress if we have apologies?
All the hardworking and conscientious members of the African National Congress are here. Thank you, Chair.
Conscientious. The MKP.
Thank you, Chair. Apology for Honorable Chongwe and Honorable Nomvalo. Thank you.
Okay. The DA.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Kalabonard will not be joining us. She's busy in KZN with the issues they're experiencing there. And Honorable Cameron will join us later.
Okay. Honorable Matthijs.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Malema, please note his apology. Some conscientious revolutionaries also have other revolutionary duties to attend to. Thank you.
Okay. For today, the word conscientious has been sufficiently used in this meeting. I'm no longer going to allow anybody to use it. Otherwise, if you use it, you leave my meeting. Do we have apologies from the IFP, PA, anyone?
No.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable Sokanyile, we must thank you for your commitment and your presence in this meeting. I've been told that you have a family situation, but you still made yourself available for the meeting, and for that, we want you to know that it has not gone unnoticed. We want to thank you so much for your commitment to the work of the committee. Can I check, honorable members, if there is any one of you who has any matter to raise before we proceed with today's agenda? There is only one item, which is deliberations on the committee report. I see the hand of Honorable Matthijs is up. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just before we to our deliberations, we wanted to bring it to the attention of the yesterday. One of our committee members, House Minders Leaving Mishongwe, appeared before the commission, and he made statements in the commission that is borderline, and Nkosana has left, but it made statements, Commission oath, that a decision to not bring a witness here, Major General Khan, to the committee was based on Honorable Malema, the EFL one, and decisions are not. So when we go and such, in other words, it's saying that there's 11 members who have the rights and one person runs. And I think that must be noted, and that it be noted that it might have been that we even have to write and clarify that decision on why Khan did not appear here was a decision that was by the, it was not made by a member of reducing this committee to a one member.
Is there any other matter that members want to raise? Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to, I forgot to mention, I'd like to be excused between 12 and 12:30, please. I have a party matter to attend to.
Okay.
And then adding on to what the Honourable Matthias said about the evidence given yesterday before the Nhlanhla Commission, I did not listen to it, and so I cannot vouch for the correctness of what I have been told, but I have had complaints from more than one person who had appeared before this committee, whose evidence was then discussed at the Nhlanhla Commission and criticised, with them having no opportunity to defend themselves, and them being placed under the impression by this committee that their position here was protected. And they've taken offence that a member of the committee went to the commission and in effect trashed. So I will advise them all to send their complaints to this committee in writing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other matter before we agree on how we process these matters going forward? Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands. I'm going to now rotate to the members to hear what their views are on the two matters. One is the matter which has been raised by Honorable Matthias and the other by Honorable Breitenbach. So I need the guidance of the committee, whether the committee wants to discuss these matters now or the committee will want the affected parties to formally write to the committee with the full details so that when we go into discussions, we know exactly what we are discussing. The African National Congress.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Chair, maybe not responding to the two issues directly. As the ANC, I think that the committee needs to agree on a treatment on revelations that have come out subsequent to the committee finishing its work in the Nhlanhla Commission. I think the piecemeal approach is not going to help us. Honorable Breitenbach just now was celebrating the issue of the rejection of the plea bargain by Mr. Matlala.
Sentence.
Yes, and my understanding is that within that, there's possibility that some of the testimony that he had given before us would have been impugned. Similarly, on the issue of allegations that would also come out against members of this committee in an adverse manner at the Nhlanhla Commission, including the assertions made by Honorable Shongo. So I think, Chair, at this point, we may not have a specific position, but we think we need a treatment where we agree what do we do with issues like that and how do we respond. I do, however, support the assertion made by the proposal made by Honorable Breitenbach, or at least the report, that she will encourage people to write to us where they believe that the protection and privileges that they are supposed to have would have been violated before the Nhlanhla Commission. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Ntuli, Honorable Nhlanhla.
Chair, just one issue, which I think for the record is important for us to say, particularly in respect to how the committee treated the then proposed appearance of General Khan before the committee. We'll recall that the committee's decision not to call General Khan was based on the evidence that was tabled by our principal witness, General Mkhwanazi, of how he has come to vindicate General Khan in respect of the DC matters that he presided over. I think, Chair, it is important that we say it here that that's what in the main made the committee not to consider calling General Khan to appear before the committee. Just for the record, Chair, I think we should repeat that. Of course, members would have echoed their own views, but what binds us together now is that we took a decision not to call General Khan for a testimony. Of course, had I known some of these issues that are developing now, I would have went for him to appear, but it was a committee decision. I don't want us to appear clumsy by pointing out our decision to individual members. Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Sokanyile.
No, I'm covered by what has been said by the members of the African National Congress. Thank you.
Honorable Nkosana.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I will hate to say chicken are coming home to roost. I will hate that. But I want to put it clearly here in this meeting. You know, it will be perhaps like a bit hard on some of our members here. But I said it and I'm still repeating it again. We fought over the issue of General Khan many times, and I was told there's no substantiated evidence before us, and it's not about why are we bringing Khan after Khan's name was mentioned by several witnesses here. Several witnesses, and I still have that video. There was an issue about Khan, but eventually it sounded like one is personal, and it was not personal. I mean, I've spoken to Khan myself. I've spoken to so many generals who came before here because we want information. But the issue of Khan is haunting me here because I'm saying when this matter was raised by witnesses here, in almost 4 or 5 witnesses, I said it in this meeting, that his name is coming in. All these witnesses are mentioning him. Now, the Nhlanhla Commission called him, and we must own up. Khan was supposed to be called here. On that one, we've dropped the ball on that one. But be that as it may, is history. But the issue of Khan was discussed here, I think twice. But because, as you know, when you have to, majority rules, it's a fact. We cannot change that. It's recorded. You can go to Hansa. It's recorded there, the issue of General Khan. But for now, I'm not sure whether it's proper for us to write to Nhlanhla, because I thought we've got our own thing here as an ad hoc committee to deal with. Let Nhlanhla deal with that issue of Khan. And us here, because it didn't appear before us, let's accept that we have dropped the ball. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Breitenbach.
I'm comfortable with the approach suggested by my colleagues, Chair. And yes, the decisions in this committee were taken as a committee. There were no individual decisions taken here.
Okay. Honorable Klopper.
Thank you, Chair. I'm comfortable. I'm covered by Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you. Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Kosana was out when I raised the matter, so I just wanted to clarify some issues, or maybe that you missed, Honorable Kosana. The issue is not about the appearance and whether we have dropped the ball, as right, and that's something that's not the issue. The issue is that we had a member of this committee give a testimony that it was because of a political party, and in particular a member of that political party, the EFF, who was the reason Major Khan did not that it was a committee decision. So that is what we are asking, that matter be clarified, and clarifying it to the commission has got nothing to do with the fact that the committee made that whether or not we dropped the ball, it was a wrong decision. That is something that can be discussed, but it can't be that we go and we say one person influenced a decision of 10 members of this committee, bringing the committee into repute. Let's take a collective ownership. There are many things that even as the EFF we lobbied for and we didn't get it. I mean, the issue, we wanted to get a case open for Brown Mkhwanazi when he came here and he pledged himself. The committee didn't agree that we should go to the speaker. We didn't go and say that we just went and we opened the case. No, it's more from that. It's not about the merits of the case. I also think, Honorable Kosana, that you must give submissions to the committee, because this is going to end up becoming our hot topic, right? And give submissions of all the witnesses that implicated Khan here in the committee. And then we can take it from there, because from our understanding and where we were at, and when we were also making those discussions, it was Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi who brought up Khan to that drug bus, and that cleared him. And there was nothing subsequently. So if there was and we missed it, let's submit it. And if we need to make a decision that we dropped the ball, I think there's many other witnesses that we didn't have have here in the committee. But that was our input. It wasn't about whether or not we should have made the decision for Khan to appear here, but it was that it was presented to a commission that it was Malema, the EFF, that stopped the commission, that stopped Khan from appearing here, and that's where we're at. But we're happy that this matter we can discuss at a later stage, and that it's just noted for now, so we can continue with our deliberations, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Sals.
Good morning, Chairperson. For me, it's always important for us to protect the integrity of this committee. And when we make statements that seems to imply that the integrity of this committee is questionable, it becomes a problem for me. There's a difference between lying and deception. Lying, you can just say this person is not speaking the truth. Deception is more deeper. It is speaking the truth untruthfully. And I think that's what's happening here. The truth is being spoken untruthfully. I usually don't bother myself with MK's position to make statements for populism. But this one is more serious. It's wrong for Honorable Kosana to say that we dropped the ball. We didn't drop the ball. The committee, there's many witnesses that was placed or proposed that was not seen or heard. To say that we dropped the ball is to say that we are not doing the same thing as what the Matlala Commission is doing in terms of the overarching aim. We made a contribution to what is happening in our country, and we should not take that away from the committee. So I have a problem with the statement making it look like the committee intentionally, as a joint body, made the decision to protect General Khan, when none of us, or in my case, doesn't know him. And that's my problem. We can have our personal individual issues, but to give the nation the impression that the MK was visionary and the rest of the committee went against the MKP to protect General Khan, that's my problem. And we should deal with that perception, make it very clear, Honorable Chair, in order to protect the integrity of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much for your inputs and comments, honorable members. I've given each one of you an opportunity to speak. We are going to take the proposal that says towards the end of our work, sometime before we do the final adoption of the report, we will come back and do an overview of whatever issues that would have emerged and make decisions on those issues. Honorable Sangweni has raised a matter here together with Honorable Breitenbach about some of the matters that appeared before us relating to some of the witnesses. Some of the witnesses would have appeared before us and made statements that were not truthful. And later, outside the committee, it emerges that those statements that were made before us were indeed not truthful. So we may have to pick up such issues and later come back as a committee to make our own observation on such matters and decide how we move forward, including the matter which Honorable Breitenbach raises on the protection of witnesses that had appeared before. Honorable Matthews has also raised a matter here about the integrity of our process or processes. Those are the issues that we must come and discuss one day. We'll agree on the date on which such matters will appear. And if members have more issues that they want to put on the agenda, they may make such submissions. We take ownership of the decisions that we have taken here as the committee. As the chairperson, I can assure you that in all the meetings that I presided over, I was at my highest level of sobriety. And that is why I always kept my notebook with me here, taking notes on what we were discussing. There is not any other decision that has been taken in our meeting that we were induced, that we were under duress, that we would have been bribed to arrive at such a decision. And if the members of the committee remember very well, it was our decision that we will rather postpone the commencement of our proceedings to allow General Mkhwanazi to be the first witness to appear before the committee, so that once we have listened to his appearance, the committee can then determine the list of witnesses that were going to appear before it. And the committee further emphasized, honorable members, that it had the sole authority to decide on who was going to appear before it. And evidence leaders were also given an opportunity to propose a list of witnesses that they thought could appear before the committee, but without the power to decide who must appear before the committee. Members of the committee were also at one stage given an opportunity to make their own submissions about who must appear before, and decisions were taken. We are going to stand by those decisions because they are our nevertheless, we will still have time, like honorable members have said, in case there are further observations before we wind up the work of the committee. Those matters must come up for discussion. Chief Whip, maybe before we start, just to take the people of South Africa on board before we go to deliberations, they need to understand what we're doing. And allow me to take this opportunity to invite the people of South Africa to join us and follow us in our proceedings today. South Africans, we are at a point where we are deliberating on the first preliminary draft, on the first draft preliminary report of the committee. Members of this committee have been given sufficient time to go through the report and make their own inputs. They have made inputs. The inputs were incorporated into the draft that today is up for deliberation. It's our first day today. We have planned to start discussions today. If we cannot conclude, we will continue tomorrow. Number two is that after we shall have finalized the report this week, we will send it out to all the affected parties or those that would have appeared before us for a period of 10 days. And then after 10 days, the committee will come back for the final adoption of the report. And I hope that catch-up, Chief Whip, was necessary for people to understand where we are and what we are doing. Once the report has been adopted by the committee, it will be sent to the office of the Speaker. And I want to make this plea with you, honorable members, that there is no one amongst us, including myself as the chair, who will speak about the report of this committee until the Speaker officially tables it in the National Assembly. This is not the report that we will be adopting here. It's not a report of the committee, it's a report of the National Assembly. So once we submit to the office of the Speaker, all of us are we must exercise self-restraint and allow the Speaker to table the report before the National Assembly. And when the report has been tabled and accepted by the National Assembly, we can all go out and start talking about the report. We are at this point because of the support, the unqualified support that we got from our support staff, the coordinator of the committee, Mr. Raman. Thank you so much for the sterling work that you have done. And I must also thank the content team, Ms. van Zyl-Gous, Ms. Silkstone, and Dr. Annie Kok for the outstanding work. To produce such a voluminous report is no mean feat. We want to thank you so much. We may not have all the words to thank you, but if I say to you that we thank you in superlative, you will then understand that we have used the highest degree of comparison. So thank you so much for it. Has been a very energy-sapping exercise, but you stayed the course. And without being a devil's advocate, I know not all the moments were good. There were moments when we left this meeting with our spirit very, very low. When you prepare a report, you go to a meeting and members dismiss it. You do not know what these people want. But you were unrelenting, very resilient until you navigate us to the point where we are today. And for that, we must thank you so much. Honorable members, we have agreed that we are going to let me start by saying that you have familiarized yourself with the structure of the report. And before we start, let me remind you about what we have said. We have said that we are going to deal with the report through a thematic approach. And in one of our meetings previously, if you remember, the content team, when they presented, they took us from section 1 of the report up to section 11, which as committee members, we agreed that those sections essentially cover what we call the record of proceedings, which will be up to page 258, from the introduction on page 9 up to the last candidate the last witness who appeared before us. All that information is covered on page 258. A presentation was made, and members of the committee were also given an opportunity to go and make submissions if they felt there was something that would have been left out. And for the purpose of this meeting, we are going to start from page 250, which is the assessment and analysis of evidence. And then we will then, from there, we will move to the themes. That is from theme 1 on governance until theme 7 at 13.9, which is on page 353 of the report. And that will be followed by a cross-cutting assessment of the principal allegations on 361. And the next section, which is section 14, deals with the findings and the recommendation. So in terms of approach to this meeting, honorable members, we are going to start at number 13, like I said, from page 256. And then I will give each of the members, or I will not give, I will call the members for them to indicate if they want to speak. Those who want to speak on a particular section, they are given an opportunity to make their own submissions on that section, raise out matters of agreement and matters of disagreement with the report. And then from there, we will move to the next section, which is section 14 on the findings, deal with those matters the same way, where those who want to speak will be identified. And then the last section will be the recommendations. Can I check if there is anyone of you who wants to speak before we get into deliberations? Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to find out that dissenting opinion, dissenting views on opinion, is it allowed? Am I right?
Disagreements?
Yes.
Points of disagreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Honorable Mathis.
Chair, it's allowed. We have some inputs on, and I don't know how you want to manage it, but both in the introduction, I think it's important that we set the pace, or we set the tone rather, on what it is to come. And there are things that we agree with in the introduction, but I don't think it sufficiently captures clearly what it is that we are about to do on the report. So I don't know if you want me to read through what we think or what our submissions are on how the introduction is positioned, or whether we must just send it as a written matter for it to be incorporated.
Okay.
It's not groundbreaking, but it is something that we should set a tone just for clearer deliberation.
We will give you that opportunity. The Honorable Sangoni.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, we wanted to check and maybe propose that the assessment and an analysis of evidence, the findings and the recommendations are taken together per theme. So if we're dealing with theme 1, for example, we don't do assessment of evidence and analysis and leave it. But we do the assessment and analysis of evidence, the findings related to that theme, and the recommendations, and then we move on to the next theme.
Close the item and move to the next.
Thank you.
Agreed. Honorable James, good morning and welcome. I see you are nodding your head, you are agreeing. Okay. Let me check with yourselves, honorable members, before we go to the themes. On the introduction, or the part that was previously presented in the meeting, from section 1 until section 13, as Honorable Mathis proposes. Can I check if there is any amongst you who has inputs or comments to make? Honorable Topa, I see your hand is up. Honorable.
Chairperson, I don't have many inputs. I just want one correction. It's a spelling mistake. Further, I don't have any other corrections. It's on the footnotes. Mkhwanazi is spelled incorrect throughout the whole report.
It's Mkhwanazi. It's Mkhwanazi. Yeah, it may be a surname elsewhere in Africa, but not in South Africa. Elsewhere on the continent, but not in this country, rather. So that is the only correction you wanted to make. Okay.
It's for the section.
And then Honorable Sols, I saw your hand is up. You have inputs to make. Okay, let's do this. We are going to start with Honorable Mathis. Honorable members, let's be at 1.
Okay, sorry, it's a simple correction, really, just a correction.
Okay. Let's take the correction.
In section 3.2, where all the members' names are mentioned, everyone has their initials that points to their second name. Mine only has my initial pointing at first name. My indigenous name is not there. Oike. And it must be the initial to reflect the indigenous element, must have the exclamation mark and the Q. So it should be A, exclamation mark, Q, source. That is actually Koike, the first source.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
The correction will be made, honorable members, and apology for that witness in the report. Honorable Mathis, can I check first with how much time do you need to?
It's probably 2 minutes. I think it's better that I just read rather than talk to it, because I can be a bit long-winded, as we know. So just from the section, so when we get to 1.5 on the introduction, our inputs here is that, we do support the view that the committee must produce a report that is firmly grounded in evidentiary record and capable of assisting Parliament in exercising its constitutional oversight. But what we must highlight here is that we are here to make findings where evidence permits, and recommendations where intervention is required. So I don't think the introduction is capturing that. It's very high level and it's not setting the tone on what it is we were established to do. So the National Assembly established us as a committee. We weren't here just to summarize the allegations and, and record, versions that were competing. We were specifically mandated to investigate the veracity and the implications of the allegations that was made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and identify government failures, oversight lapses, and to determine whether the evidentiary record disclosed wrongdoing, whether it disclosed corruption or misconduct, and also to make recommendations regarding legislative policy and institutional reform. So our final report must be based on that mandate, and our introduction must be able to set that pace a little bit more clearly. And that's pretty much up until we also need to capture that also more clearly under the mandate of terms of reference and to not give such a high level view that we were just here just to listen and then make an assessment. But we were here to, it must come out very clearly that we must be able to make findings, we must be able to make recommendations where evidence is provided. And if our content team can just add more clearly, and I think that's pretty much our input.
I think the point is indisputable. Is there any member opposed to the insertion of that into the introduction? Going. Are you triggered, Honorable Skosana, or were you just repositioning yourself?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to find out, Chair, on our inputs, the proposed treatment and draft location. I wanted clarity on that from the word go, because I've seen the wording which was used here. I'll give you an example. Section 7, in terms of limitations. Is this limitation found by the legal team or is it by the admin staff? Because I'm looking at one example, the issue of Morgan Maumela, that the record is untested allegation and considered referral only way identifiable evidence exists is on location 7, 13, and 15. So my question is that, are we going to debate these issues? Are we going to deliberate these matters?
Yes, assessment of evidence. When we speak about analysis and assessment,
yes.
When we come to that section on deliberate, if there is anything that you think is inadequately covered in the report, you are able to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready to go, Honorable Member? The meeting is like it's very tense. So, is there anything you have heard which I do not know, which makes you so nervous? We can't be like we're getting into an examination room.
It's a reshuffle, it's caused Chair.
That one does not belong here. For sure, you know the separation of powers very well. This is not an examination. It's deliberations. Honorable Mathis.
Okay, Chair. Also and I'm glad he did trigger me, Honorable Kosana, because we jump into page 200 and 240. But we also have inputs on on how we are entering our findings and our recommendations. So even on 7.4 on the evidentiary limits, also the institutional limits, it's not properly captured. It gives a very high level view of what the committee had to deal with. It should be noted clearly here what were the resources that the committee requested in its terms of reference and was adopted by the National Assembly, and what was made available to us by the Office of the Speaker. I don't know if we want to include a section that deals specifically with our engagements with the Speaker in terms of the resources that were available, because it's not clearly captured here, and I think it has far-reaching consequences on how we were able to engage our witnesses and also the evidence that was before us. We've got documentary evidence of our engagements with the Speaker's office, not just on the resources of like the forensic investigators, her response, her time of going back and forth on responding on requests that we have made. Even the issue we had, an example is that we had in our terms of reference, we made it included that we must have psychosocial support for our witnesses here. That was not made available, and that matter was needed on that day when we had one of the witnesses that was crying uncontrollably since she arrived. Even on that day, we did not even have medical services. I mean, sometimes the ambulances were out there, but they were not available on that day. And we had to go through and continue with the witness without having that clarity on whether, this was something that we should be doing or not doing, or whether it was white woman tears or whatever the case may be. So these things must be highlighted because it's going to set the pace on how we're going to go into our deliberations. And it's a very, very important fact because it was also something that we raised continuously as a committee and our engagements with the Speaker's office in terms of making resources. It can't be that Parliament adopts that we set up an ad hoc committee, it asks for its terms of reference, we say what it is that we need, and then it's not provided. And this should also form part of our recommendations. And I mean, it's not necessarily to take the Office of the Speaker to task, but also for Parliament to be able to, going forward, when we set up these ad hoc committees or inquiries, that we ensure that there are resources available and we don't become a laughingstock of a country where we just sit and listen the whole day and we are unable to we even end up using our own resources as individual members of parliament, or we use our party resources to be able to get information. So the EFF, we've also made recommendations that, but we'll get to it. But the recommendations that we're going to make further on, it needs to be captured here on what our challenges were in terms of its limitations. So when we make the recommendations later, the report speaks to itself. So we just like that to be clearly captured on what the committee was provided in terms of it being able to do its work. Thank you.
Okay. Can we hear what the comments of the members are on the matter? Honorable Chief Whip.
No, thanks, Chair. I tried to listen very, very attentively to what Honorable Matthias was saying. And as I was doing that, I really wanted to avoid a situation where my judgments and my own views about what she says is clouded by the latest development, which has been led or being led by the organization that she comes from, towards the Speaker. Now, I would prefer that, Chair, if we want to have a specific observation that we want to make about the quality, the level, and whatever we call it, of support that we anticipated and happened to have received from the Office of the Speaker, I think the point of departure would be for us to have an agreement on what were our own collective expectations as agreed upon by the committee, and depart from that position to then determine whether or not the Office of the Speaker responded to our request adequately, effectively, and in line with our own expectations. I think each one of us had views about what we wanted to see happening. I seem to recall very well a debate that once taken place when the Honorable Matthias was arguing very strongly that we should have been provided with a forensic investigation. But I don't seem to recall that the committee ultimately took a firm position on that matter and conveyed its position to the Office of the Speaker, and probably even got a response, or we might have been failed in one form or another. So I would prefer, Chair, that the observations that she's talking about are very important, but I would prefer that I think we will have to be a bit meticulous about a proper recordation of what was agreed upon by ourselves as a team, and then make observations about where there may have been weaknesses or challenges with regard to those interventions not being provided by the Office of the Speaker. I'm not very certain that discussing it the way we do might help us here and now, but I would suggest that when we meet, in all of our meetings were recorded, decisions were minuted. I think it should be possible for the team that is working with us to extract those decisions that we took and say to us, these are decisions that we arrived at, and then we can, as a committee, do an evaluation of the extent to which the Office of the Speaker did intervene to help us achieve our own objective in line with those. So I suggest that we don't deal with it in a way that has been presented. I think let's accept that it has been presented, but initiate a process that will be more objective and substantive to deal with it, so that it would not be difficult for us to have a consensus on each of those issues. Thanks.
If we still have any other speaker from the NC, Honorable Skosana.
Chair, I'm going to make a remark first. I'm not sure whether you allow me to do that, because now we'll be deliberating this report for the next 2 days, perhaps 2 days if we don't finish today. And as a representative of our people in this country sent to Parliament, and I think perhaps I've missed that earlier, that both the Nhlanhla Commission and ourselves, the people of this country are expecting results out of what we are doing here. And as such, I just want to applaud South Africans as well, that the behavior yesterday in the so-called March to March behave in a manner that it befits South African, real South Africans, besides the incidents which happened. And the police has shown yesterday that they've got the capacity to defend South Africans. Now, besides the other opinions, because as I'm saying, I said to you, we've got different opinions about issues, but I will emphasize and applaud and say thank you, South Africans, for your behavior yesterday, smaller incidents. And coming to the issue here, Chair, I think this draft report, as you said that we read it, all of us here, I believe. And indeed, there's not much, which perhaps one can point out, from Mkhwanazi party and as a member of this core committee. Dissenting views will always be there, and there's nothing wrong. Even in the Constitutional Court, even in the Supreme Court of Appeal, sometimes they differ. And there's nothing wrong that we abide as if there's something wrong, then somebody must be afraid to say, no, I differ. No, if I differ, I differ. But the majority rules, and we'll accept that. But it doesn't mean that we must keep quiet when we said things here and we are pointing them out clearly, openly, because this committee, millions of people are watching this. And we cannot change facts because there's broadcasters here. They've got this recordings here. So one cannot change it because he wants to certify somebody else. There's no one who's judging anyone. But indeed, Chair, let's start. Thank you.
Can I check Honorable Breitenbach?
Thank you, Chair. I largely agree with the input. Truly, I'm not a praise singer for the Speaker, but I think that our domestic issues should remain just that, domestic. We can discuss, matters that we thought we did well and thought that less well, and lessons learned amongst ourselves.
Honorable Klapper, Honorable Sauls.
Thank you, Chair. I think the issues are covered efficiently.
I think to agree. Ultimate public trust, we highlight coming. How does that instill the trust? How to put I agree.
Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chief Whip, I can assure you that this has nothing to do with the vote of no confidence in the Speaker. And it was, and you'd know that the EFF has always been passionate about resources being available and being able to fully capacitate the committee. We can take the position that we don't have to go to the extent of highlighting the office Speaker in that regard. But I agree with you, Honourable Ntuli, that there is, and that's what I did say, is that there is the whole record of our communication, and I think that must just be captured, because it's quite possible that our report is also going to be taken on review, and we might make recommendations and stuff that is not, I'm not anticipating, but it can be. So that's what the section is about. It's our limits. It's not saying that we are already setting ourselves up for failure, or as Honourable James is saying, decreasing public confidence. But it's saying these were our limits, and this is what we had to deal with. It is in the terms of reference of the resources that were requested. So the committee's deliberations on that is whether we pushed for it or not. But it's the National Assembly that adopted that these are the resources must be made available to the committee. But we can move on. We don't have to go back and forth on that moment. But I think in terms of our limitations and our capacity to be able to perform ourselves, it must be noted what was made available in terms of what the National Assembly adopted for us available.
Okay, honourable members, we are going forward. Let me remind you that if you go back to the minutes of our meeting, you'd know that at some point the chair was advised to write on the support that Parliament, the committee, and those letters were, and the office of the Speaker responded to the request that the committees made. If you remember, with regard to forensic abuse, there was one letter where the office responded and indicated that amongst the evidence leaders, there was one of the councils who had those abilities. Maybe on our part as the committee, we might have not indicated the areas where we needed such services to be employed. But nevertheless, I think the meeting has expressed itself very adequately that in case there is any other matter coming to light, we can always deliberate on it and determine if we should include it in the report or not. What I hear coming out of the members is a reminder to all of us that we have been put as a committee to investigate. And we were not only investigating, but we were investigating the veracity of allegations that have been made. And so it means the whole report at the end, especially with regard to its assessment of, should be able to indicate where we agree that those allegations that have been made have been, and for sure those allegations that would not have been verified, that you can say there is a case to be investigated, and whoever is responsible for can investigate. But where the committee is convinced that sufficient evidence there have been malpractice, or there is prima facie evidence that criminal activity would have been, the committee should be able to make those findings and recommend what action has to. I'm just saying this so that we have an understanding on how we deal with the analysis, assessment of evidence, findings and recommendations, like it has been suggested here that let's treat them together, not separately. So I'm now going to move honourable members to page 256. Hello, Honourable Sangweni.
Just wondering, with you having accepted a proposal that we treat all three elements together, will they be restated for members to follow the logical link between the evidence, the analysis, the findings, and the recommendations?
Yeah, my understanding is that if you remember when the draft report was this is a draft that incorporates inputs that parties or members would make. And, do you need to have a caucus? Do you want to request me to give you a caucus before we start? Because there must never be any confusion before we start the meeting, because I see you are talking between yourselves across parties. You want me to give you a caucus? Okay, let me give you a 15 minutes break so that you agree amongst yourselves if there are any issues. Because you see, once the meeting starts, there is no way stopping the chair. Yeah. So you need to talk between yourselves and understand this procedure properly. Yeah. Okay, I'm giving 15 minutes break. Your break is starting at 11:15. We're coming back at 11:30. We are resuming the proceeding. And I think that members have had enough time to talk between themselves. The sense I get is that the approach that we are taking, even though agreed to, it may be somewhat complex. So we will exercise that with some degree of flexibility so that members do due diligence to the report. And I have said that for the purpose of deliberations on the report, I'm going to allow each one of you to speak because we're deliberating on the report. It's not compulsory that you must speak where you agree with the content of the report. You can just indicate that in this section, I'm covered. Like I said, we are now on a section 30, assessment and analysis. And we have said that we will take the assessment together with the findings and recommendations. But what I said, Honourable Matthias, is that we will exercise some degree of flexibility so that members are satisfied that the process is done in a way that when we come out of the meeting, all of us have some form of satisfaction that we would have done justice. Can I note the hands that want to? Yeah? No, I said to you that we are on page 266. Yes. Do you want us to go? No, we can't go page by page. Listen to the approach the approach is that I recognize hands. And the reason why I'm saying we're starting on page 266, that is where the assessment starts. And then remember, we have agreed on a thematic approach. If you go to page 268, I think that is where we start with the first theme. 268, yes. It's theme 1, governance, executive authority, and leadership accountability. So the assessment is done theme by theme. Can we all of us be on page 268, where it says theme 1, governance, executive authority, and leadership? Is there anyone having a difficulty, Honorable Klopper?
You're asking two things now, Jay. You're saying hands for deliberation, and if you've got difficulty. So I don't have a difficulty, but you asked if I would like to deliberate.
Okay. Yeah, hold it. I now want to recognize the speakers from theme 1 on page 268 up to page 278. Honorable, you have been noted. You the first one. Honorable Evan. Do you still remember your numbers?
Chair, even if they don't to cover.
Okay, that will make my meeting easier.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just one aspect from my side in respect. The assessment and analysis of evidence. I think you'll recall that at some point we wrote to the Speaker requesting the services of I'm not sure if it was a data analyst or a forensic educator. And the response from the Speaker was that the reason there was an addition and appointment of Advocate Mkhwanazi was for specifically those purposes. But Chair, from where I'm seated, I doubt a lot of work in respect of those forensic services has been done in respect to the evidence that was delivered before the committee. You'll recall that we have requested those services specifically because the magnitude and the form of evidence that was submitted to the committee and the load of work would not have allowed us to have ample time to do an analysis whether this evidence can be credible, this evidence. So I just wanted to reflect on that, Chair, that I'm not sure if we have covered that aspect comments, but I think from once where I'm seated today, there's not much work that has been done for that aspect.
Can we move to the next speaker, Honorable Skosana?
Chair, can I come at a later stage? You can pass through. Just want to formalize everything to one.
Papa.
Thank you, Chairperson. I only have two things to speak on here. On the first is on page 274, it's D&E, where the former Minister Bekitele is sitting here and giving his evidence. And if I look at D, it speaks that, there's much caution and there was on the evidence of Bekitele with Mr. Matlala, because how he became aware of the Tembisa hospital environment, the serious allegations, and then it moves over to E. So obviously it's already a red flag if you're already aware of these allegations and you're staying. Then we move over to E, where it speaks of the plot, or the alleged plot against SAPS officials. And the allegations was hearsay. And I'm not sure if this is 100% correct. The allegation might be hearsay, but Mr. Matlala, according to Bekitele, was confessing to him about plotting against the police officials, giving a affidavit that was fake. And I still asked the former minister, is this not been perjury? So what plot completely was he speaking of that hasn't been tested? This was his own admission that he had made those affidavits that were false. And then it was later withdrawn. And then it goes on to say that both the former minister was a minister as well as a national commissioner, and that it raises accountability concerns. And I think it's just that part there which says, allegations was hearsay. This was said by Matlala that he had indeed given those false affidavits. And that part just concerns me slightly in that paragraph. Chairperson, please just forgive me because I'm working from a computer. I just want to get to the next point, which is on...
What do you recommend?
Chairperson, I don't know if we should be calling the whole thing a plot against the SAPS and that it cannot be tested, because part of it was in the evidence of Bekitele, the former minister, as well as Matlala, that he was in fact confessing to being part of this plot. And can it only be tested then as an allegation of hearsay if both Matlala as well as Bekitele are both saying the same thing? That evidence was given that he had, and that affidavit was indeed handed in against those officials of stealing the Rolexes and so forth. And I don't think it should be treated just as hearsay. And I worry that we're weakening what was actually then said here.
You are suggesting that when we go to recommendation, if there is any recommendation on that, it may not be strengthened.
Yes, Chair. And I just think that we should just be cautious in this paragraph of using the word hearsay when it was part of a testimony given here by Bekitele, as well as Matlala, confirming that there was an affidavit. All right, sorry, Chair. Let me just quickly get to the next one. I only have one more point. Just need to get to it. Give me. Chairperson, so I didn't structure this as just one part and then another part. Mine is every part that I read that is concerning. And on page 278B, it speaks about the lack of evidence and a record of drafting process, legal advice, documents, etc. And I think that the lack of evidence is concerning in itself. If one doesn't even, after all these interviews, understand the why there was no records, and the whys that were given seems to be so many, we're really in a difficult space. There's a lack of coherence and totality. I don't understand how any decision was taken without due deliberation, and due diligence. And it's exactly because of this lack of evidence that we're actually sitting in the situation that we are. So, sorry? We were sitting in this situation because there's a lack of evidence, because there's a lack of record. And I think this is just something that should be really, highlighted. Chairperson, I'm going to pause there. I don't want to waste a lot of time, and I know we have a lot to do. So that is just the only thing I have to say for this whole section. Thank you, Chairperson.
Charlie, are you ready?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quick, Chair. I think the issue here about Minister Mchunu, that the directive was lawful. We know now that it was not lawful about the disbandment. Now, there should not be any doubt about that. And I think the way it's put here is like we are still saying we are speculating. Because when you read B,
on which page?
269, that directive of disbandment, we now know, and the issue of the port's entry, where General Musikili spoke about it, that she considered such an outcome incompatible with SAPS constitutional and statutory mandate, and with its aviation and maritime security responsibility. We know now that the minister was involved. I mean, that's what we were told here. Unless we have a doubt, we are saying General Musikili was lying to us. And when we come to the boundary between the police and operation, let me jump to the issue of Nkabinde. The Nkabinde matter.
I think what you should do, are you still on page 269?
I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I was just saying that on that 269, I've raised what I've raised.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The report is paginated.
Yes.
And the paragraphs are also numbered. And some of the paragraphs even have subhead.
True.
Yeah. So that everybody is on board with the inputs that you make.
Thank you, Chair.
If you move from page 269, I'll let us start from here.
I'm going to the other page. Thank you, Chair.
The other page, and maybe the paragraph is numbered. You can just say 13.3.3.
No problem, Chair. Yeah, because I'm quick, Chair,
Yeah.
On that, my days is concerned here, but fine.
No, you're
protected.
And I agree with you that you are very quick.
Yeah, the issue, Chair, now I'm on page 269, which I'm done with that, on the issue of General Musikili. Then now I'm on page 2713.3.4. Constitutional and institutionalized boundary between police and operations. I think we deliberated that in terms of who's an accounting officer, between the minister and the national co-commissioner. And it was evident that the national commissioner is an accounting officer and the minister is an executive authority. Now, we know now, Chair, on 270, 13.3.34.
The second paragraph on
page 270 is that Minister, Police and Oversight Authority that we agreed. But when it comes to the issue of accountability, the accountability rests with the National Commissioner. And the issue that the senior SAPS witnesses, however, described the same action as intruding into the operational command was discussed in this meeting. That the minister was indeed intruding. He argued with the minister about that to say that he still maintains that he is indeed as well involved in operational issues. And we argued strongly about that there's a thin line regarding that. Now, when you go to that issue, which for me invokes the 13.3.5 about the Nkabinde, to say the minister said clearly here that Nkabinde, he was impressed about Nkabinde, and there's nothing wrong of Nkabinde. Hence, I'm talking about the thin line, that Minister Mchunu emphasized that the executive is not excluded from decisions that have operational implications when this arises from the structure. And that emanates from the issue of the disbandment. That's what I want to emphasize here. Because he was livid that for him, there was nothing wrong about him disbanding the PKTT. And we know all of us that it was wrong. On the 13.3.5, he was talking about the internal decision-making process of Mr. Nkabinde, because he was central, Mr. Nkabinde, on this matter. He confirmed that the directives were circulated for input within the minister's office that has transmitted it, and that it did not question its legality, timing, or operational consequences. For me, this is not clear, because I think the way it's worded here, I've got a problem on that, because I think we should be very, very clear whether it's Mr. Mchunu correct or is Mr. Nkabinde evidence correct. And when you jump, Chair, on page 271, the episode nevertheless raises the governance concern. A serious institutionalized disagreement between the minister's office and the senior SAPS officer came to the documented through an undisclosed personal recording rather than through a transparent and properly recorded official process. And I think we've traversed that by, if one has to remember as well, beside what is documented here, is that it was wrong for the minister to ask Nkabinde to record Mkhwanazi. That recording was completely wrong, because the minister explicitly instructed Minister Nkabinde to make that particular recording, or directed that it may be made covertly. In other words, General Mkhwanazi was not told that he was recorded. Now, We have to have the findings on that. Thank you, Chair.
Can we proceed? Honorable Matthias.
Thank you, Chair. We are going to start on 13.2.1. This is the purpose function approach. And our input here is that the committee is not empowered to determine criminal guilt or impose sanctions. So I think this sets the pace also on how it will go into deliberations. However, we must note that the limitations does not prevent the committee from making actual findings based on the evidence that is placed before it. And this must be properly captured under the purpose approach. So I'm just going to read how I think it should be worded, but obviously our content team will make it more appropriate. I know we have more of a revolution. So under 13.2.1, the committee is not empowered to determine criminal guilt or impose sanctions. However, this limitation does not prevent the committee from making actual findings based on evidence placed before it. The committee is entitled and indeed required to assess the credibility, the reliability, and the weight of evidence, to evaluate competing versions and determine whether allegations are supported by evidentiary record, and identify governance failures, oversight lapses, wrongdoing, misconduct, and institutional weaknesses where there is permits. And then we move on to under 3.2.4. We should note underneath there that throughout the inquiry, they received sworn testimony, documentary evidence, written submissions, and other information that's relevant to the allegations under investigation. And in many instances, evidence was collaborated by multiple witnesses, and there were documents and electronic communication and objective records. And I think that is not under that section. Richard, scroll down. Under theme 3, which is 13.5, and we go to point B under 13.5.2. Our input here is that the evidence demonstrates the crime intelligence experienced prolonged leadership uncertainty, extensive vacancies, additions, governance disputes, operational stability during the period under review. Then go to F, also under the same. The committee finds that the moratorium imposed on the appointments in crime materially affected the ability of vision to perform its function and contribute to operational weakness identified several.
Which page are you on?
It's I don't know the page number because I don't have page numbers, but it's on 13.5.2.F. Let me. The theme is
where your admins are ahead of us.
Are we doing one theme at a time? I missed that. Thank you.
Honorable Sols, are you fine? We are between 268 and 278.
I thought I'm number 7. I thought I'm number 7. I'm after.
He has spoken. Look behind you. It's only one person.
I can see that now. I didn't see Honorable Breitenbach ran away. So we're dealing with...
Theme 1 is on from page governance, executive, and the middle.
Yes. So when we read 13.3.2, yes, which deals with the directing of the immediate disbandment, and then it goes into the subsections at B there where it talks about General Mkhwanazi and General Masemola characterize the directive as having direct operational impact, as having been issued without prior consultation. I feel that there is an imbalance in the posture that the report is taking. It gives the impression that the committee is, even though we don't have any evidence of the allegation, but it seems like we are leaning more towards the testimony of General Mkhwanazi and General Masemola and ignoring the counter to those allegations, because there was contention around what was immediate and what was not immediate. So the procedural flaw, I think, is it treats the third part evidence that was mentioned, to support this. It was accepted, it was hearsay, but here it seems like, although we don't mention it in the report, but it seems like we are treating it as hard evidence, that it was proved that the disbandment was unlawful. So I think we should insert something along the following line. The committee explicitly notes that whilst Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi's testimony outlines a compelling narrative regarding the Big Five drug cartel, there remains an absolute absence of direct forensic, financial, or digital evidence linking former Minister Mchunu's executive decision to any illicit network. Allegations stemming from inmate interviews and unvetted audio clips do not meet the threshold of verified fact and must be treated as unsubstantiated assertions pending formal judicial outcome. Because if we don't do that, we then intentionally ignore the fact that, number one, when the directive was given, the disbandment did not happen immediately. There was agreement amongst SAPS officials, the National Commissioner together with the Minister, that it will then happen over time. And that was the testimony here, but it seems like there's no emphasis on that. 2, I specifically asked directly to our main witness, is Minister Mchunu corrupt? There was no answer to that. As a matter of fact, our main witness, General Mkhwanazi, said he can't answer that. So we can't ignore the fact that there wasn't real evidence on this issue. We must not treat it as though there was conclusive evidence to us that there was this links to drugs or to a drug cartel. There was no evidence given that Minister Mchunu disbanded, gave a directive for disbandment because he was infiltrated by a drug cartel. There's no evidence. So for the report to treat it as though there was, is unfair and unprocedural. We do not choose between Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, neither do we choose Minister Mchunu. Our job is to present what we have discovered fairly, but make recommendations, and then a decision of guilt is found thereafter. So I don't think we should exclude or create an imbalance in what we, and I hope that what I've just read as something that I think should be inserted as a balance will be added there. Thank you.
I'm partially covered. I'm still back what F4 was giving out now. So we just
Remember what we can.
made up.
So if we come to findings and recommendations
Yes.
and feel that
Yes, I'm going to wait. I think that's the important and that's our man.
in fact, what is thematic is that the report is organized in 7th. So theme 1 deals with the governance exercise. So what it means is that when we are in a section, if there are any matters that you feel that which are related to disband and political, the political administrative, and then if you would have gone through the findings and the recommend. At the same time, you can marry your assessment together with the findings. But if that may be too cumbersome, you can always deal with one and come to the findings and at your own. So it's like the chair has adopted an outcomes-based approach that we allow every learner to learn his or her. The next speaker was the
Chair, when we're listening to witnesses, I think it was very easy. Now, when we must deal with the report, it's getting complicated because we all have read the report and we have worked out our different approaches on how to comment on it. When Honorable James was talking, I was smiling because I was very clear that part of what she's saying addresses my concern. I am not going to deal with the substance of what is contained in the report on theme 1, but I want to deal with my proposals on what should be covered as findings or recommendations on. So which means
you are in order.
Yeah, because as I listened to my other colleagues, they were clicking what is contained in the report.
But
at the
even
moment.
maybe before you go to do that, because if this process is cumbersome, members may advise. If you want us to give each one of you to make your own assessment and recommendation on the whole report, we can take the same approach. The content team will find a way to locate them properly, you see? And if you still feel strongly that we can continue through the thematic approach, maybe what we can do, let's finish theme 1, and then let me check what the time is. It's not about lunchtime. We take theme 1, we conclude it, and then I get an advice from you as to whether you want us to continue theme by theme, or you want the chair to give each one of you a chance. And then you say, what I'm going to present will cover all the findings, and the content team will then come what I would have. And then the difficulty which may be there is that at the report finding, how do you want to approach them, or as a report with find? I think, Rosango.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think in principle, we don't have a problem with your suggestion that we all speak on the report on its entirety. I'm worried because we are likely to be raising issues that we raised in our submission. We had a meeting last week or the week before where we had thought that this particular report would have consolidated our submission. And to be honest, I don't see the African National Congress's views in the document as it currently stands. Now, in the event that we were to take that approach, it then means that the report is going to go back and get reworked again, and then we must sit and look at it again. Or are we finalizing it during these next 2 days? That is where my biggest challenge is, because I feel like we've already done this. We're going to go through our report and tell you what we said. I know that you're trying to figure out, Chair, whether we're looking at a consensus, unanimity, or we're going to have majority views. Are we going to deliberate all those issues here? So it's not just about depositing as we did the last time, and they were not.
I think, Chair, what you've already proposed, I think that will work wonders. Even if that will have dissenting views, because we'll have dissenting views, that's for sure. It's normal. Unless we agree, maybe there's a miracle that will make us to agree, to say this report, all of us, there's my majority, there's majority, so be it. We won't object to that for the sake of objecting it. But if there's issues which we are raising and we feel strongly, as members, not as collective now, some members might feel that, the recommendations are not appropriate or are not as hard enough as some of us want us to be. Though I think the way you are saying it now, it will help, because if we go by theme to theme, I can tell you now, we'll finish on Friday. I'm not rushing. I'm prepared to stay here until the weekend. No problem. Thank you.
Chair. So when we had it has to find, you're going to have to, under Honorable Kosana's evidentiary assessment, etc., and be able to do that. Because what I'm concerned about is rush and we get to our recommendation and findings, and then the rest does not find expression under all the other themes. So someone without knowledge can run with that if that is covered. Just don't know how we're going to handle, Chair, when we agree on what. So maybe it be noted, and then we spend another day where we what our be on. Otherwise, we think I've already noted all on what we can go back and so maybe on the green.
Listen, honorable members, you are not disagreeing between yourselves in terms of approach, because if you remember the initial proposal that Honorable Sangweni made was that let's take the report theme by theme, and in a theme where a member would want to make findings, You make those findings and suggest recommendations. So we will be done with that. And so now, because I can see that, and that is why I was very worried that you look very nervous and tense. It's like you are going to the examination room. And that was a sign to me that there is a difficulty in terms of how we are approaching the report. And that's why the second proposal then is to allow every member to say whatever they want to say on the report. And then if you want the content team to go back and say, we have factored all your inputs, your findings and recommendations. Let's say, for instance, on theme 1, these are the areas of agreement and these are the areas of disagreement. Where there is agreement amongst committee members, it means it's a unanimous resolution. And then where there are areas of disagreement, that is where we will then develop an approach on how we discuss. And if we disagree, we can then agree to take an approach of majority and minority recommendation. So now, when I rotated with yourselves, I wanted to check whether you still want us to proceed with the approach of going theme by theme, or you desire the approach of allocating each one of us time to make their own observations, findings, and recommendations. And then we conclude the meeting. Honorable Solsi, you are next.
Chair, I know that we are not deciding approach, but let me say what I lean more towards theme by theme.
Yeah.
Because when we deal with the finding and the recommend, we are now making sure that it speaks to each other, the theme.
Yeah.
And we get to and Chair, you will sympathize with me, because what this has done in the public court of opinion is we all as members has received certain label by South Africa.
Yeah.
For example, I have the label that I'm protecting the drug.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting here and to propose a balanced view, and I mention Minister Mchunu, I will again be looked at as I'm protecting Minister Mchunu and others. But I'd rather risk that and maintain the integrity of this committee that says we will present our findings in a fair and balanced way. What we found about General Mkhwanazi, the positives and the negatives. What we found about Minister Mchunu, the positives and the negatives. We present without no emotion. So what I was raising earlier was just to say what I've spotted is the things that Minister Mchunu raised. There's not a balance. And so I will emphasize that. For example, another one, and I close with this, is there's no mentioning or even alluding to the fact that Minister Mchunu is the one who cancelled the Matlala tender. So it should speak of executive intention that we are dealing with. So we must zoom into what is our posture in the report. So I'd rather run the risk, but I will fight for a report that presents fairness and it preserves the integrity of the state. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. You know, we can go around in circles all day. Certainly looks like we intend to do that, sadly. But we should bear in mind that all of the members of this committee are not finders of fact. We're not a court. Weighing up evidence and making findings of fact is a very, very, very difficult and very, very, very specialized task that many experienced judicial officers struggle with. None of us have that experience. We are not finders of fact. Our job is to find weaknesses and problems present in the current system that governs the South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the wider criminal justice, and to make recommendations on how we best think those can be resolved. We cannot find people guilty. We cannot find people innocent. We can find that people have misled us when the objective, glaring facts suggest that, and we can make recommendations in that regard. We cannot find guilt and innocence. So we needn't waste our time with respect debating those issues. There's a very important paragraph in the report on page 427, paragraph 15.16.2, which says exactly that. The evidence before, and evidence is used in the widest possible sense here, because what we heard here was not evidence. It was information. It was not tested. It wasn't cross-examined. There's nothing to support it. There's no supporting evidence or extraneous evidence or real evidence to support most of the information that we heard here. So to call it evidence is a very generous term. But the paragraph says, where evidence before the committee reasonably suggests that a witness may have knowingly provided false or misleading evidence to Parliament, the National Assembly should consider referral of the matter to the appropriate authority for assessment. That's our job. We have no other job. And so we can go around for days complaining about what people said, but it's not really relevant to what our job is. Thank you.
Honorable cover, if we so honorable members, for progress sake, we are going to take this approach. We will take the report theme by theme, and then this is what we are going to do. If there are members who want to make a complete submission covering all areas, I'm also going to give them an opportunity so that they must not just be passive in the meeting waiting for the afternoon. So can I check how many of us want to speak once and make their submissions? It's Honorable Skosana, Honorable Matthews, Honorable James. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Chief Whip now, and then when the Chief Whip is done, we will take Honorable James. Honorable Nhlanhla, who want to speak? Did you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Do you have inputs to make on theme 1? Okay. Chief Whip, may you proceed?
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I'm going to make a proposal, and I'm departing from the understanding that we all have read the report. We have our own views about what the report says, the substance. And I want to start off by raising issues that, in my view, have not been properly canvassed in the report. The first one, and it's part of the recommendation that I'm going to, so that at some point when you decide that we debate in the committee, determine whether the majority or all of us or some of us agree with, that it's a specific, we leave it to your discretion to decide at what point will you want to discuss and address areas of divergence on various. So the first one one deals with the matter of the directive on the halting of the crime intelligence post. My own reading of the report is that there are no specific recommendations or findings on that matter. And I want to make the following submission so that it's easier for the meeting chair. I'm going to read it on record. That a decision by an executive or administrative authority should rationally relate to the purpose for which a power was given. So a decision must also bear a rational connection to facts and the information available to the maker on which the decision is proposed to be based on. The SAPS Act and the regulations promulgated by the Minister grant the National Commissioner authority to decide on the creation and filling of posts within SAPS. The Minister, that is now the point I want to emphasize, that the Minister, in my view, misconstrued his powers as there was no empowering provision law that gave him the authority to unilaterally decide that the post should not be. So that's the first point that I want to make with regard to the directive on how to handle the crime intelligence. The second, that's my proposal that we should make as a finding.
Yeah.
On them. The second one I want to make, Chair, relates to the directive of the Minister, because as you would notice, I'm dealing with the three aspects of the directive first, because that is what we occasion our existence the following conference. The second one has to do with the directive on port or the ports of entry as we recorded intervention. Here I'm also making an observation of something that has not been strictly found in the report before us. And the point that I'm making there is as follows: that the Minister was within his powers to issue a directive in terms of Section 207, subsection 2, directing that the National Commissioner develop a plan to assess the personnel efficiency of police. So that's the finding 2 that I would like to before them. The third one is on the disestablishment of the. Again, here I'm going to be making a point on a matter that does not appear on the report explicitly covered on the findings by our team on this report before. And the point there is that there was no meaningful consultation between the Minister, the President, and the IMC and other stakeholders. The assessment of work of the PKTT was not conducted, and the Minister's reasons for disbanding is not entirely supported by a sequence of well-grounded facts before. So that's the third point that I want to make an observation of the findings, having seen to everybody appeared before us in the Minister, as well as remember affidavit. And then the fourth point I want to talk to is 5. Point number 4. I'm not sure if I'm still within the same thing, but I want to take 4 or 5 points, even if they are not in the same. This one deals with the allegations that the Minister is a member of a criminal syndicate. Again, I want to make a point here, which I suggest should constitute one of our findings. That is not also coming out of the report, coming up on the. And the point is that the allegations cannot be, in my view, sustained and be supported by evidence. So with all that I have a sense that the report recognizes the fact that we listen to the issue of criminal syndicate, but it doesn't spell out clearly whether we should be considering a finding which implicates the Minister on this matter. And that is why the point I've already. The last 2 points I want to make, Chairperson, is that the first of the last 2 deals with the existence of what is called the drug cartel. Again, the point there is that the evidence of its existence and the coordination, I think we need to make the point that in terms of what is before, we can't stand up and firmly say which doesn't. The last one, Chair, that I think I want to weigh in on is the alleged corrupt relation between Minister Mchunu, Mkhwanazi, as well as between Mkhwanazi and Matlala. The point I want to make there is that in terms of what was at our disposal, evidence of corruption between Mkhwanazi, the Brown Mkhwanazi, is in my own view still remain, as well as relies largely on what one can call speculation, not necessarily substantive stand on confirm that two Mr. Mkhwanazi entered into corruption. And I want to conclude by saying, as well, in terms of the evidence that can confirm that deals with corruption between Mkhwanazi and Matlala, and that corruption being done on tool, I also hold the view that the report should indicate our finding that we can't make information before us does not cost. Of course, I want to qualify my statement there that it may, however, be necessary that further determine if any link. And I'm making that qualification, cognizance of the fact that that investigation would not necessarily, once that work, it may have to decide which other agent would be up so that they got it. So for now, I want to rest it. I have other comments to make, but let me not monopolize the
in the next, because you are fine. So the content team has captured what you. So now we're going to take honorable across cutting.
You want? Thank you, Chair.
Am I representing you? Can all?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And a detailed report as our finding. Okay, so part A is part of our standard indication of the finding. The committee received various forms that finding whose reliability cannot establish. So we have that formally adopted, requiring that before we relied upon finding corroborated testimony. Other recognized cannot find finding. Our finding that one may have provided false recommendation of having referred to authority warrant to the powers of Parliament 2000. Such referral further security clearance as a finding the highlight provides classic out. This is pride of staff occurred in COVID without guard. SAPS policy principle whereby no member must periodic and expiry or down the point staff to cluster be subject to security as a pre-parliament. Allegations of fear and SAPS score the transparent. The South African SAPS, South Africa require Parliament hearing to the following national conference process, public and Parliament 4, but emphasizing SAPS and clarifying the national finding. Evidence expert submission before the highlighted concept while Section 207 provides many controls does not define such as like recommend Parliament. The SAPS provide content distinguish policy and brackets lawful function from operating direct function to the national. All ministerial direction the national must be in writing accompanied by such directions must be by consultation the national. All directions be tabled before Parliament oversight should identify ministerial direct transfer of the officialized analogues the former task, but strengthening oversight of crime intelligence. Parliament oversight of crime find evidence be identified in Parliament oversight of crime being oversight recommendation. The oversight mandate or other mandated Parliament structure, regular substantive reporting, enhance X financial powers, apply and document and appropriate safeguards, protect national. The finding current limit on the powers and accountability gap regarding the audit of certain recommendations. Parliament's mandate, SAPS service and crime accounts, subject to appropriate confidentiality and national security. This financial account operational and administrative reform, digitization of case docket management finding, the continued reliance on manual docket management losses like thereby undermining criminal processing and public confidence. The just recommendation, SAPS acceleration of a digitized case docket system, incorporating pure electronic records, role-based controls, comprehensive logging of all docket, enhanced such reforms of case management, corruption, prosecution outcomes. Review of SAPS organizational structure, finding top relative assess SAPS's rank, reducing the unnecessary managed layer, reallocate frontline capacity, state device for finding use of personal device for official SAPS communications and operating impedes oversight, undermines accountability. All SAPS be those here managing intelligent oversights, laptops and other devices with work purpose. Such device the proper official business is subject to lawful access audit oversight in relation SAPS conduct. So, Chair, this is some of our findings with the recommendations. Like I said earlier on, all compute has four.
Thank you so much. So that completes our. Oh no, we still had Honorable Sanko on theme one. No, she has spoken to all the things. You want to do it like her. No, she said that she only wants to make those cross-cutting findings and recommendations. Honorable Nhlanhla.
So it looks like it's so difficult for you today to not recognize me.
No, I have recognized.
Should I proceed?
I even wrote your name down.
Should I proceed, Chair? I thought
it's your time to speak now.
No, thanks very much, Chair.
The last will be Honorable Sanko, and we move to.
Thanks, Chair. I also wish, Chair, to adopt process done. I think the first thing, Chair, which stands out, particularly on theme one, is issue which the Chief Whip has touched on also relates. I think some of the members were misunderstood. Executive authority, Chair, isn't derived from evidence table meeting. It specifically derived from legislative and policy frameworks. So I also agree, Chair, with the Chief Whip when the Minister would instruct as powers what was within the power to attend to anything. Let me not expand, Chair, on that part. I want also, Chair, to cover just one aspect in relation to theme 6. The interagency coordination. I think, Chair, it is common cause that there is a need for law enforcement agencies to coordinate their efforts to eliminate duplications. So I think let's specifically give that obligation to the JCPS cluster, develop an organized crime and corruption strategy, which will align the investigations to organize. As we speak, Chair, for example, we have an issue of Mr. Matlala, whose case is in IDAC today. Tomorrow is in the PKTT. The other day is in crime, the other day is at IDAC. So we do need that coordinated strategy that must be developed by the JCPS cluster to coordinate matters in a proper and efficient, so that we don't have duplications in fighting about things that really do not matter. Chair, I think we have part of what we have noted as this committee during the testimonies is that we can all agree that IPID has been compromised daily and being made an ammunition by some people in the security cluster against some people in the security. So I think, Chair, we should stress it that IPID should recruit and train investigators independent from SAPS, TPCI, and IDAC. So we should give powers to IPID to recruit its own staff. You'll recall the issues of someone being moved from crime intelligence to IDAC, from IDAC to IPID, from IPID. So we need, Chair, an expedited legislative amendment that gives IPID to do its own recruitment on issues of staff. An issue, Chair, which is raised in theme 5, which is organized crime, infiltration, and institutional rights. Here we want to recommend, Chair, that the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police must also develop a framework that guides the movement of personnel in between the different enforcement organs of just what I've just said, the SAPS, TPC, IPID, you'll find that there is a lot of duplication in terms of recruitment of a person. If you'll recall, we once had a discussion about some fellow Mr. Johnson who was moved from crime intelligence to IDAC with some recruitment process being in question also. So I think there must be a standardized framework developed between the Department of Justice and the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police on how the personnel is moved amongst these organs. Chair, we mainly have dealt, fortunately, Chair, I also speak on this matter as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice. We mainly have dealt with the powers of IDAC. The powers of IDAC in the main are derived from executing the recommendations and findings of the Party Commission, of the No-Gen Commission, of the Zondo. But the NPA Act actually allows them to deal with any matter of serious corruption matter that they deem it fit to deal with. And Section 27 of the NPA Act actually accords them powers to act on referrals where a certain Mr. Nhlanhla suspect that a certain Mr. Skosana has been involved in a serious corruption matter, and I go and make an affidavit. But we think in the main, Chair, the threshold to those referrals is just too low, in that it just requires me to present my face and do an affidavit, then it ends there. Then IDAC investigate. So our thinking, Chair, around this aspect is that the Portfolio Committee on Justice should look at amending the NPA Act, in particular Section 27 that gives powers to IDAC to act on referrals. Was the allegation at the face of our people is that IDAC, through that Section 27, is now being weaponized as an agency that fights individual battles instead of fighting corruption, the same issue that it has been established to do. You know what's worse, Chair, is that with the three commissions, from the official establishment of the changing of IDAC from ID to IDAC in 2024, they have only finalized 9 matters out of hundreds, because they are small resource. They even directed to some other things that they've got nothing to do with the findings of this. So we move, Chair, here by recommending to the House that let Section 27 of the NPA Act that deals with IDAC referrals be dealt with. Chair, I think let's say it here in this meeting that what Mr. Adams alleges to be a receipt of an intelligence information from a particular door doesn't really make any sense. And we think that how even it was adduced arrogantly in this committee feeds to the same narrative that Mr. Adam would have been used also to enter the battle that has nothing to do with him and his parliamentary obligations. But I'm saying, Chair, was what is our worry mostly here is that there is intelligence information that is going around exchanging hands. If an intelligence information can be found under a door of a person, it means there is intelligence information that is going around changing hands, which is very dangerous for the sustainability of the security of the country. So we want to recommend, Chair, here that the crime intelligence must actually investigate this matter further, and also want to give an obligation to the Mr. Cameron is here. Want to also say, Chair, as coining this recommendation, the Portfolio Committee on Police must have regular oversight follow-ups on this matter. Because our belief, Chair, is that the work of the ad hoc committee in relation to the matter at hand ends, but the work of Parliament in relation to the matter doesn't end. So the Portfolio Committee of both police and justice must also follow up on that. Chair, there is also a very uncertain issue relating to the evidence of Ms. Kolaba, which in our view, that from being a member of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and for being a member of Parliament in general, having taken an oath, at least she should have better understood on how to handle some of the information that comes to her disposal. Most particularly the issues relating to intelligence information, whether classified or not classified, what kind of classification is it. Our understanding is that Ms. Kolaba was in a better position, having served in the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. I'm being supported, Chair. That
your battery went flat.
I think so, Chair. But I'll stop on this part. Then I can come back later. Then I can come back later.
On which theme?
So I'm saying
on which theme were you?
We're on the last one. So we're saying here, Chair, in respect to the conduct of Honorable Kolaba should further be referred to the Ethics Committee to further run an investigation and make a determination of what Parliament needs to do in respect of that. And Chair, we're doing this in our understanding, not only this ad hoc, even ad hoc committee.
So what did you recommend on the assessment of Honorable?
We recommended, Chair, that let the crime intelligence investigate further on what would have happened in respect to the document that was said to be an intelligence document, and the portfolio committee on police must regularly follow up on
What is the reason for exempting him from the Committee of Parliament?
we can also add and say we can add him that the Ethics Committee of Parliament
Because
follow up on.
if you recommend one, the other, all of them are members of Parliament. The Ethics Committee regulate.
Yeah.
I mean, if that recommendation accepted, just for complete.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we fully agree. And Chair, we also want to recommend that also Ms. Mashale must be investigated for her conduct in disseminating the intelligence. You'll recall, Chair, that she also said that she exchanged information with Mr. Adams, and some of which was even posted on some portions of it was even posted on social media platforms. Chair, I think we part of what becomes our observation is that we've got a serious vetting problem within, because you'll find that crime intelligence vets itself. It's more like we come, we vet ourselves. So it becomes easy for those who want to deal with a certain Mr. Nduli to deal with him in respect of the vetting outcomes. So we recommend, Chair, that crime intelligence must have an agency for vetting, both crime intelligence and SSA. There must be an establishment of an agency that deals with the vetting. You'll recall, Chair, that here we even got allegations of people having been employed within crime intelligence while serving criminal records. So there are a lot of things that are said. So to curtail that, we recommend that there must be an agency established to deal with such kind of. I think, Chair, the issue of the spending. I think Honourable James touched on issues relating to the Director General and all that. I think we also, Chair, would wish that let there be an audit on that. You'll recall, Chair, that we have had numerous testimonies alleging that there's a misuse of the secret fund account within crime intelligence. The bills have been escalated. We even went to an extent of calling the CFO.
You want to introduce more
accountability mechanisms, Chair. Let me try to move fast, Chair. The issue, Chair, of employment within crime intelligence is also becoming some kind of a loophole that may have driven some of within the employee of crime intelligence to be found less accountable, solely because they are not part of what they call the employment, the basic conditions of employment act, the labor relations act, blah blah. So we propose, Chair, that even in crime intelligence, the personnel, the human resource of crime intelligence and SSA and defense intelligence must also be subject to conditions of the Act and the Labor Relations Act. So there's an issue about the missed document, which doesn't really give authority to anyone where an intelligence information gets stored. Who is the custodian of the intelligence? So it becomes a bit tricky because it gives whoever has it as a custodian. If it's in Parliament, then the Parliament presiding officers are custodians and all that. So we call upon the ministers responsible for this kind of information to rework them. Back then it used to be State Security Minister. It looks like we no longer have now. It resides within the Office of the President. The executive authority responsible for this kind to rework and amend the missed document, explicitly give an authority to a particular agency on the custodianship of intelligence information, so that there is proper accountability. If there is a leak, if intelligence information is exchanging hands unlawfully, there must be someone who is responsible for that. There's an issue, Chair, of the state information. What is that? Protection of Information Bill, which I think also needs to be expedited. So we are saying the recommendation, Parliament must expedite that, the processing of that bill. It's already within Parliament. Chair, I think, Chair, for now, let me pause there.
On the class, what on the can I classify?
No, Chair. That's one of the reasons we want an authority to know the what. If there was some part of what becomes our observation is that to a certain level or to a certain extent, we tend to hide crime through classification. We use classification to hide crime. So that's why we say there must be an authority. Of course, Chair,
that's why because two parts. The first part is once, because now it stands the author and second recommend maybe the nature of categorize what kind of if I want to author the power of any iota.
Yes, Chair.
No, it's not for now. You're not going to abuse my members in the meeting.
Yes, Chair. Yeah.
Okay, Honourable Braden Back, you want to? Okay, welcome, Honourable Cameron. You just make sure that they have the relevant Cameron. Honourable Sango, you were the last.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The truly superior content of Honourable Nduli and Honourable Nhlanhla has covered me. I just want to make just one addition, I think, to the issues that Honourable Nhlanhla was dealing with around the IGI. And we are obviously concerned about the conduct of the IGI when he had been requested by the Minister to profile Ms. Mashale. And we think that there should be an investigation by the relevant intelligence authorities into that. And then on the matter of the Border Management Agency that Honorable Nduli had raised, we also wanted to propose, in line with the report, a referral to the portfolio committees on Home Affairs and Police, but also the vetting of personnel at the BMA. I think at the center of the dispute that arose between General Musigiri, I think, and the minister was the implementation and interpretation of a section of the BMA, which specifically says that, and I just want to refer to it now, section 4.2 of the BMA Act, which provides that border law enforcement functions within the border law enforcement area and at ports of entry must be performed exclusively by officers of the authority. So we support the referral of that to the portfolio committees on police and home affairs, but that the SAPS must also ensure that all members who are deployed to these ports are vetted as a matter of urgency, and lifestyle audits when necessary should be conducted. Thank you.
I'm going to request where we proclaim that must be respective law enforcement. We may also need to come with time from the regularity of, so that you don't have an ad hoc committee, the recommendations. It's something that Van Zyl, we may have the time frames so that we become action oriented. Can we move to we're moving to, are we done? Theme 2, honorable members, is on operational effectiveness, task and governance, and case management. There are some of the recommendations that have been made by Honorable James and Honorable Nhlanhla, which pertain to that we are. Can I check those who want? If your hand is not noted on theme 2, for now it's only one hand. Yeah.
So for now, Chair, we are taking themes, not.
No. I said I'm going to exercise the degree of flexibility.
Okay.
I know that you yourself and Honorable Matthias, you want to make cross-cutting submission.
Yes.
But if you checked, I took Honorable James and I took Honorable Nhlanhla. They are gone. So they're not going to speak for the whole duration of deliberations because they have now been given a chance to make their own submission.
And as well, are we allowed to send it to the Secretariat? Because if I have to do the holding chair, it's going to take long.
Yeah, what I'm doing, I'm exercising a degree of flexibility.
Okay.
So if we give you a chance, like if you saw what she
did. Yes. She
said, I'm not going to read everything because I've already made a submission, but I have points that I want to emphasize in this meeting, particularly on the findings and the recommendations. So at the time we note you, we may want to check. In fact, the most efficient way will be to check with you how much time you may need so that we don't allocate your time and you speak for the next 2 hours. Yeah. Okay. Honorable Sols on theme 2. Are you ready? Yeah.
I think maybe I should start with what Honorable Nhlanhla has recommended and just make a remark on that. The issue of us recommending that Honorable Adams must go to Ethics Committee, and also that Ms. Mashale, we must recommend that she should be investigated. I want to state for the record, it is those two people amongst others that brought a balance with issues that could be substantial. We cannot stop any investigation, criminal investigation or whatever, against Honorable Adams outside of. But for this committee now to, by implication, treat him as someone whom we have concluded has done something wrong or has an assistant committee, I disagree with that.
Sorry, Honorable Sols.
Honorable Cameron Mwango, okay. Honorable, we hear the point of order.
Chair, we've just resolved that we are going to give our inputs on findings and on the themes, and we'll note where we don't agree, and then we will set time aside to have discussions and deliberate on the points where we do not agree. Honorable Sols. So I think we must move in that direction, otherwise we're going to go back and forth, and it was something that we had agreed to the committee, Chair, that we deal with the points of contestation amongst at a different time, and right now we are just providing our inputs on what we can capture.
Chair, I am making a remark for no discussion. Honorable Nhlanhla has made his input. I'm stating mine for noting. We're not discussing. Later on, we can deal with the merits. But I have to state that we must not treat it as though there was no contribution made. When we look at what was presented, he was correct when he said the docket was locked up in an office. That was a true and tested test. Now to treat it as if it's unethical and so on, something up for debate. But I must make a remark, similar to Ms. Mashale, who was a whistleblower. She brought her evidence here. Now we want to treat it as if it was criminal. So I'm making a remark.
Okay,
I have a right to do so.
Point of order.
I'm making a remark. We can discuss it.
Can I rise on a point of order?
But I'm really making a remark.
Let's hold it, Honorable.
Chair, it is basically deliberately misleading to say what we have suggested that we found. Hence, our argument, Chair, was that let there be an extensive investigation. And the matters we have raised, Chair, are undisputed. It's not disputed, Chair, that Honorable Adams found a paper or an envelope under the door. He said it. It's not disputed, Chair, that Honorable Kola Barnard acted on a particular information, went to the public, went to the minister and all that. She said it herself. It's not disputed, Chair, that Mashale posted things on Facebook. They were flighted here in this room. She said it. So if we recommend a further investigation, we don't say anyone is guilty. We don't say anyone we've got overwhelming evidence against. Hence, we're saying an extensive investigation must be conducted. So I agree with Honorable Matthias. We're going to have a problem, Chair, yeah, if people do not make their submission, and then we come down and say, on point A and B, this is where we disagree. Then we'll have an issue, because the more we want to entertain other people's submissions instead of advancing our own submission is going to cause us to go back. So from where I'm sitting, Chair, Honorable solves out of order on two aspects. One, misquoting what we have submitted. Two, continuing with what we have said is going to have a given time.
Honorable Hassan. I think Honorable Nhlanhla said mouthful, because I just wanted to say that otherwise we're not going to go anywhere. I'm going to make a submission, somebody's going to raise his hand, and you know, we'll go. We want 15 Chair. And I think Honorable Nhlanhla is sum it up. Thank you.
Honorable Solves, the point of order is...
Chair, is that not considered input? Are you saying that the point of order is that I must raise what I'm raised in a later part of the meeting? Or are you saying it must not be raised?
No, the point of what other make your own submission.
Yes, that's part of my submissions. But I'm saying, are you saying that I should raise what I'm raising, not now, later? Just want to understand the board.
No, we're now...
Yes, I'm going to address...
Well,
yes, I will do so. I must understand, will I be able to raise what I'm raising late is what I'm asking.
Even now, if you want to that raise...
Our format, we've agreed on themes.
Yeah.
Honorable Nhlanhla has done the whole thing, his whole thing.
Yeah.
So in other words, myself and Honorable Sangoni, for example, is being theme by theme. So if I need to understand, because he raised everything.
That's what we said. That
should I wait till later to deal with that element, or should I totally leave it?
You know, when I checked members who want to cross-cutting present or submit, it was you were not one of those who wanted to make cross, and that's why we said we will exercise of flexibility. We will take those who want to take the report theme by theme, and if there are those who also want to speak at once, we will. You can indicate to me and say, no, I want to speak now, and when everything, I don't have. I will allow you.
No, Chair, I'm okay with theme by theme, but you must guide me in terms of if I hear something like from those who doesn't present theme by. Do I wait until later?
Yes.
All right. So I can address what I'm addressing later. All right.
Yeah. So you have decided to take the report theme by theme.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are now on 278 to 29.
Yes. So I will deal now.
Don't be intimidated. Just get to your.
So on page 24. 13.4.9 A, cost sustainability and the institutionalization. Lieutenant General Dempani's evidence provided an important and substantially documented financial perspective. The expenditure recorded against the PKTT project code amounted to approximately 434 million from inception to 30 September. The principal cost drivers were overtime and travel subsistence, including accommodation, meals, etc. The amount was substantial in absolute terms, but was incurred over then 6 years. The comparison with selected SAPS intervention did not show. This is where I want to zoom into, Chair. The comparison with the selected SAPS interventions did not show the PKTT to be an obvious expenditure outlier. Now, the evidence that Lieutenant General Dempani produced showed the opposite of that statement. It actually showed that the PKTT was an expenditure outlier. So that should be reconsidered. On page 18 of what she presented to us, table B, she gave to us to show that the expenditure over the years, when you exclude the KARA funding, which she testified is not part of the SAPS funding or budget, it's separate. So you can't include that when you measure whether or not PKTT was a financial outlier or not. So when you exclude KARA, which was 1.1 billion, and you exclude the 2021 unrest, which in the financial year 2025-2020 was zero, so you can't consider that either in determining whether PKTT was an expenditure outlier. So when removing those two, and then comparing the PKTT with Thunder in Cape Town, with the March shutdown and the Amanguzi cross-border KZN, it then becomes clear that PKTT, in comparison, was the expenditure outlier. It's there, but the report says something else. So I make that submission, Chairperson, that it is not correct for the report to say the testimony of Lieutenant General Dempani was saying that the PKTT was not expenditure outlier. Most was spent. Most of the budget over 5 years was spent on the PKTT. That's the fact. Then I would like to see an addition also, because again, I'm dealing with having a balanced approach of testimony, not so that the report must not lean more to one side, even though we are not finding anybody guilty, but it seems like we are not presenting a balanced view of the facts. So what section 13 does is it isolates the accounting officer's compliance concerns, which is General Dempani, about the PFMA irregularities from the field operational continuity. By treating these as competing personal testimonies rather than systematic failure of task team governance, The report fails to explain why the unit was allowed to operate in an administrative vacuum, because that's what we need to zoom into. It's not who's right or wrong. It's about the systematic breakdown administratively in our SAPS. Then, of course, the operational stagnation section. The section also focuses strongly on the word immediately, without evaluating how a sudden unconsulted directive paralysis or operational effectiveness on the ground, how that was impacted, creating confusion between provincial commands and national directives. So although the friction caused by the directive is stated, but it fails to critique the severe threat that abrupt, immediate de-establishment poses to case management, specifically regarding the whole active documents, evidence preservation, and witness protection. So for it to reflect some balance, we propose the following. Operational handover protocols and case management standards. This edition must evaluate properly the phrase immediately against standard police administrative law. It should state that an immediate freeze on a specialized unit operationally threatens active criminal investigation. To preserve case management integrity, any directive to disband must structurally mandate a phased, secure handover phase to prevent the compromise of active dockets. And we've seen that in the testimony that happened afterwards, but it should be something that becomes standard. So as a finding, the committee should find that a profound vulnerability in task team governance has occurred, while operational commanders acted in substantive good faith based on strategic continuity authorized by the IMC resolution on 5th September 2023. This decision was never translated into a formalized SAPS administrative mandate. This omission left the unit technically non-compliant under the PFMA, creating a structural governance gap. Another finding proposed from our side, the operational effectiveness and case management. The committee finds that issuing a directive for immediate disbandment without prior operational consultation or a predefined transition period severely compromised operational effectiveness. It created acute risk to case management by threatening the continuity of active dockets, infusing the chain of command between national and provincial levels, stalling active investigations. Recommendations. We propose the following recommendations in this regard. It is recommended that the National Commissioner implement a mandatory standard operating procedure for specialized units within 45 days. This blueprint must require that any task team established via strategic political directives must possess an internal SAPS charter co-signed by the accounting officer, defining its explicit lifespan, budget lines, and compliance milestones. Last recommendation for case management preservation. It is recommended that a strict case management preservation protocol be introduced. No executive or administrative directive to dissolve an active investigative unit may take effect instantly. A mandatory 30-day operational winding down phase must be legally enforced to audit, secure, and digitally log transfer of all active dockets to regional or local command. That's it for theme 2.
Thank you so much. Can I check if we still have more speakers on theme going on? 2. It's Honorable Mathis and Honorable Sango who are being for line. We will come back at 10 past. May you still...
We're taking team lunch break.
No, we're now breaking. When we come back, it's only 2 last speakers.
It's team lunch.
You are ordered to stand up and leave. It's only 2 speakers here. And you? Okay. You are ordered to stand up and leave with the meeting. Can I check those members that I have recognized to speak on theme 2? I don't see anyone.
We consider the matter finalized, Chair. Thank you.
We consider the matter closed. We now move to theme 3. Can I note hands of members who want to speak on theme 3? Theme 3, we are on page 298. The theme is crime intelligence, instability, and intelligence-led. Honorable Thopper.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go through everything. I want that fine.
Hello?
Can I go through everything with the flexibility arrangements?
Yeah. How much time do you need?
I won't be long, Chair.
Okay.
I won't be long. Yeah. Chairperson, on page 376, 14.2.8 speaks to, I just need to get this, sorry, with the device, the IDAC and the MPA structures and so forth, and speaks also on 392, 14.15.4. So I bring those 2 together, and as well as the recommendation of 5.2, that the wording of the MPA, including IDAC under MPA, should say truly independent, free from executive overreach, and as well as financial independence. I'm not of the option that the MPA is currently independent, as what the report would suggest. There is a recommendation that they have independence, but I think that they should have their own budget. They should be financially independent, Chairperson. So that speaks to recommendation 15.2 as well. Chairperson, then I will move to page 382. Chairperson, I don't agree with this paragraph at all in the sentiments that it gives. And it says that, and I'm not arguing that there is enough evidence to say that the guilt can be placed at the feet of either the minister or the SAPS leadership. But the buck needs to stop at the actors that are at the top of their respective spheres, whether it be executive or operational. And that this responsibility then needs to be shared. The buck does stop by them. And to say that it is just, how can you say, overall accountability of governance, it's almost like a cop-out. And I think, Chairperson, that we must really word this, that people who are responsible for their specific tasks need to shoulder that responsibility. Otherwise, we can, every time something goes wrong, just call it a governance accountability issue or a trouble, without those who are actually in charge and receive a salary to actually take accountability for the actions. Chairperson, that would be 14.7. And then in 14.5.8 speaks of the IGI. And I think that is also very important because the IGI report never saw the daylight in this committee. And I think it's being used as a smokescreen. And I think that the recommendations need to really speak to where IGI or where secrecy ends and accountability starts. Chairperson, we can move to page 384. Chairperson, this one speaks about the record keeping, and it speaks to, and I think it speaks to specific officials that are responsible. Again, it's in a recommendation. It's very loose to say, what should be done. But we also have to say, who was in charge of these dockets that were moved? What is the accountability there? And it is a major problem. And I don't think we can just leave it as a matter of future fixing, but it has to be fixed what has happened, and somebody has to take responsibility. And this matter should be then investigated further and find out who was ultimately responsible, and the consequences need to follow. There needs to be consequence management for this type of failure.
Which number is that one?
Sorry, Chairperson, that would be 14.7.3, and that would go with recommendation 15.5 of the docket. Yes, Chair. Sorry, I just now need to find my page again. On 14.75, Chairperson, it lists risks, and it says that the risks are loss of institutional memory, delay, evidentiary compromise, duplication, so forth. But it seems that it misses the most important risk, and that's of the South Africans. If there's cases or damage to this exact loss of dockets, and that we might be speaking about high-profile cases here, but if we are going to name the risks that losing and moving dockets causes, then South Africans' dockets that are lost should come first on that list. Chairperson, so the recommendation is that it must, in those risks, include the damage that it causes to South African citizens as a major risk concern. Chairperson, I'm just keeping it short because of time. I really don't have too many. I just want to check quickly. I covered 592. Chairperson, page 592. There's a weakness between SAPS, crime intelligence, PCI, IDAC, IPID, NPA. And Chairperson, in this committee, we heard that there is communication and they understand it. We've done oversights at IDAC just recently. And when questioned on communication between SAPS, IDAC, NPA, etc., it was said that there isn't. And then in recent interviews that we've seen on TV and on social media, you again see that there's some issues and communication challenges between high-ranking officials in the SAPS and high-ranking officials in IDAC. So there's obviously an issue within this communication. And I think in the recommendation, there needs to really be a structure of communication between SAPS, IDAC, NPA, DPCI, and so forth.
Is it communication or competition?
I would say communication because the questions were all on communication, and it was indicated by Advocate Johnson that there is no communication problems, and it's a media thing that's created the impression that they don't have synergy and proper communication. However, just in recent statements again made televised, there was a communication problem between high-ranking officials and IDAC. So I think that this recommendation needs to be boldly stated, Chairperson. Chairperson, I won't repeat the point, but again, 5.29 is the wording of the NPA must have true independence of financial independence. It must include financial independence, Chairperson. Chairperson, I will end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can I check? Do we still have members who want to speak? Yeah? No. We have now just concluded theme 3 because, yes, we are done with theme 3. Can I check if there is any who wants to speak on theme 3? Yeah? Honorable Matthys.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, theme 2, theme 3, all the themes, we have inputs as the EFF. So I don't know if I wouldn't mind us just going through and presenting what it is that we have as the EFF across, including our recommendations and findings, and then we just close or you want me to only deal with theme 2?
How much time do you need to go through?
Maybe about 4 hours. I'm joking. I don't think it'll be more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
So
so you go through all the themes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can go under page by page. So on point by point. So on theme 2, 13.4, and then we go under F. Our input here, I'm just going to read so it goes quicker rather than me talk to it. As you know, that I can overtalk sometimes. The evidence establishes that the political killings task team was an effective and productive investigative structure and it achieved significant operational success in the investigation of political, organized criminal violence and related offences. That's our input over there. And then we move to, I wish I had extracted our inputs rather than having to scroll forward. Under 13.4.14, And then after section F, we would just like more clarity on the National Commission, and we think it should be captured like this, that the evidence establishes that Lieutenant General Sibiya played a significant role in decisions relating to the transfer of the 121 dockets, the future of the PKTT, and the broader operational matters examined by the committee. That just doesn't come out very clearly in that regard. And then under theme 3, 13.5.2, and then just under B, our input there is that the evidence demonstrates that crime intelligence experienced prolonged leadership uncertainty, extensive vacancies, contested appointments, governance disputes, and operational instability during the period under. And then we go further under F. This needs to be clarified. The committee finds that the moratorium, yeah, that's the word, imposed on the appointments within crime intelligence materially affected the ability of the division to perform its functions and contributed to operational weakness identified by the witnesses. It just needs to come out much more clearer than what at the moment. Then we Then we move under 13.3, the relationship between Minister Mchunu and with Ms. Mkhwanazi. And then under G, our submission here is that the committee finds that the accumulative effect of the evidence creates a reasonable basis for concern regarding whether public institutions and decision-making processes may have been vulnerable to improper external influence. The committee further finds that the evidence presented regarding the interactions between Mr. Matlala, public officials, and other individuals connected to matters before the committee warrants further investigation by the relevant law enforcement and anti-corruption authority. The committee finds that the evidence concerning the relationship between Minister Mchunu and Mr. Mkhwanazi was characterized by material inconsistencies that were not satisfactorily resolved during our inquiry. And the evidence demonstrates that the differing explanations provided regarding the nature of the relationship, the frequency of the interaction, and the extent of communication between the parties. The committee also finds that aspects of the evidence presented on the issue are contradicted by documentary material, communications record, and other evidence placed. The committee further finds that these contradictions raise legitimate concerns regarding the accuracy and the completeness of certain explanations provided during the committee finds that the evidentiary record establishing grounds for a comprehensive ethics and integrity investigation into the relationships, communications, and interactions between officials and private individuals implicated in matter. And then also on 13.6.14, and then under section D, the committee finds that the evidence concerning Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi is one of the most significant and reoccurring features in the inquiry. Evidence demonstrates that Mr. Mkhwanazi's name appears repeated across multiple and otherwise unrelated evidentiary strands examined by the committee finds that the evidence emerged in relation provided by senior public officials, matters concerning the PKT's related to Matlala, interactions involving the Ministry of and broader allegations. Further finds that the reappearance across multiple evidentiary stands cannot reasonably be regarded. The evidence established Mkhwanazi occupied a position of proximity individual exercising public power despite not holding a formal position within SAPS history of the relevant law enforcement. The committee finds that the evidence raised concerns regarding the extent of decision makers and matters falling operational response of state. It further finds that the explanation provided regarding the extent of the purpose involvement did not address concerns raised. It finds that it illustrates the existence of communication and that warrants further investigation by authority. Further finds that the evidence established a fast basis investigating whether improper influence exercised over operation. 7.7 under D. However, the committee finds that evidentiary record discloses grounds to justify further in nature of Mr. Mkhwanazi's relation and interest. I just read that, didn't I? No, Chief. This thing is just jumping, but we're on our final. Most of it. Then on 13.10 under public participation evidence, our input there under B, the findings and recommendations that follow should therefore be understood as oversight findings grounded in evidentiary record and directed in the mandate conferred by giving the whole background. On 14.2.50, the committee further notes that the findings of irrationality, procedural irregularity, maladministration, poor governance, oversight failures, misconduct, or institutional weakness do not amount to findings of criminal guilt. Such findings fall squarely within parliamentary oversight responsibility and are necessary. In undertaking this responsibility, it is necessary to find in fact falling within the oversight mandate, determination of criminal or civic liability, which properly falls within the of courts. So that function. And then under 14.5.5, the committee finds that the evidence presented during the inquiry discloses serious governance failures and accounted across several. She further finds that these failures created in concerning authority, operation control, utilization, specialized investigation, institutional accounting were able to develop access. 14, you want me to have a break? 14.6.5, this is on the PKTT. Further finds the circumstances surrounding the directive of the 31st of December 2024 and subsequent transfer of investigations and operational consequences arising therefrom revealed serious governance failure, weakness, safeguards, protect, they make, and I don't know where we're going to make this finding here, but I don't think it's an exercise that we've done. As a committee, we were faced with this challenge of we've had witnesses come before us and they give us sworn affidavit and they give us testimony and they can tell us different things about exactly the same event, which means that they have no problem going to write a sworn affidavit or coming before Parliament and misleading Parliament. And unfortunately, we do not have the power to say this one purged themselves or didn't do that. But we need a process where we go through and we identify the cases where we've had conflicting testimony. And in our recommendations or in our findings, number one, we must identify that. And in our recommendations, it must be that Parliament must open perjury charges against those individuals. And obviously, they would need to go and answer, and the court of law will decide whether they purge themselves. I mean, some of the matters are not necessarily strongly related, Chair, to what we were investigating, but we need to give a very strong message that we must take sworn affidavits in this country very seriously. It cannot be that senior officials in our criminal justice system can just write a sworn affidavit, come and sit here and mislead us, and we don't do anything about it. One such example is not necessarily, one of them is the Robert McBride and the issue of him having or not having a sexual encounters or relationship with Sarah Jane Train. So that matter must come to the floor because he came here under testimony. He said he didn't. She came here and she said she did. Clearly. So that must be one of the matters that must go, and we must open a case of perjury against them and let the court decide who purged themselves while they were before us.
Thank you. So, Honorable Mathesiu, are you done with your submission? Did you want to speak, Honorable Sokanye?
Yes.
What do you want?
Can I talk?
Yeah, I want you to tell me first, do you want to make cross-cutting submissions or you only speak on theme 3?
Talk that have been raised.
Okay, yeah, you are allowed.
Thank you. Chair, looking at the issues that have been raised by honourable members, referring to referrals and consequences, there are some that have been left out. For instance, even in the report, the committee has noted the allegation concerning the acquisition, access, use, or dissemination of personal financial credit related and other protected personal information without making any person regarding the legality of such conduct, whereby the committee may recommend that the National Credit Regulator, the Information Regulator, and other competent authority assess whether any matters disclosed during the inquiry warrant further investigation in terms of the National Credit Act of 2005, protection of personal information. Then it won't have recommendation, but where we need to take those issues, the relevant law enforcement agencies must investigate for possible violation of National Credit Act, conducting lifestyle and assessing the credit information of individuals without the necessary authority. This is informed the fact that you have Sarah Jane Trent, who in her statement, she confirmed that she became a fraud examiner in 2019. But looking at the evidence that she presented before the committee, she actually started before that because she started in 2016. In what she presented here, she was already conducting the credit checks and running a lifestyle audit. And yet, she's not mandated a chairperson to do that.
So your observation is that at the time she was correct in that she did not have that.
She did in 20. And we're leaving that hanging as the committee. We're not referring it to the relevant law enforcement agency.
So your suggestion is that it must be included in the assessment findings.
Surely.
What is the recommendation?
I'm saying that it must be investigated, taken to the relevant law enforcement. I'm going further.
Yes.
With regard to Paul O'Sullivan, must be investigated for violation of National Credit Act for assessing credit information without necessary authority. As referred that. Then if we're going to look at the investigation into fraud and theft by South African police and other statutory enforcement agents, conduct such an investigation, O'Sullivan and associate is not a law enforcement agent, but he did behave as if he was one. We cannot leave Paul O'Sullivan here. And we have noted that the NPA has been reluctant to re-enroll the matter against Paul O'Sullivan and Ms. Sarah Jane Trent regarding the allegations of impersonation of IPID investigation. If you remember, Lieutenant General Patlane issue going there, disguising as IPID investigators and intimidating General Patlane, that warrants an investigation by the law enforcement for statutory crime of intimidation and common law of offense of attempted extortion. Because if you are looking at what Lieutenant General Patlane placed on record, he placed on record emails before the committee that was sent by Mr. Paul O'Sullivan to him, which stated that in January 2016, where he was pressuring to pursue criminal charges against certain police officials, he was purportedly investigating. And when he refused, it started to intimidate him, and he started to threaten him, and he said that if you are refusing in my demands, I will turn my attention to you. Then on February 5, 2016, he said, if you don't take action against Mchunu, now I'm turning attention in you. So he was threatening Patlane on that. And he also, on the 12th February 2016, gave ultimatum with threat, fix Mchunu now, or you'll go the way as slavery. We cannot just leave it as the committee, the issue of slavery, to threaten someone with what happened to another person. It's serious. So we cannot just leave that. The NPA should enroll the issues against Paul O'Sullivan. Then again, Mr. Sullivan be investigated. That one is not included. Be investigated for violation of Section 3 of the Protection of Information Act. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, in many threat to General Patlane on the 5th February, he said, I should mention that I have now formally notified the British and U.S. Secret Services that the leadership of SAPS is knowingly supporting Al-Qaeda by protecting known Al-Qaeda money laundering cells of South Africa. You know, those issues that were raised by O'Sullivan, and also in his own admission, under questioning, he testified that he worked for the British government. So we cannot just see here, Kenji, talking also about the terrorism placing South Africa in another thing that we don't know. We cannot just leave it. And then another thing, Chairperson, the delegated role of Deputy Minister. I think I should talk to that, whereby the presidency should develop a framework regulating the delegation of responsibilities to deputy ministers and associated parliamentary accountability arrangement in order to strengthen transparency and responsibility and oversight. The president must develop a framework that guides the assigning of delegated responsibilities to deputy ministers by ministers. You know, when the presentation was done here, some of the committee members, they wanted to say that we don't need any deputy minister. We need those deputy ministers, but there must be a delegated framework that must be done by the presidency and with delegated functions to be shared with Parliament for its oversight function in accordance with Section 93(2) of the Constitution. And then again, in institutional culture, discipline and ethics, the government should assess whether additional safeguards are required concerning the movement of former members of specialized intelligence, covert technical and high-risk operational environment to private security industry, where such movement may create security intelligence or conflict of interest risk. This is according to the evidence that was given by former Minister Bheki Cele. The state spends about 1.1 million to train one member of police special force. We lose these members to the taxi industry. That's what he said. And the private security industry. If we're going to look at Mr. Matlala's security, he said there are former police special force members who are working for him and they're earning big monies there and they do the job. If we just leave them as they are, amendments, I'm saying that the amendments to the SAPS Act and its regulation is proposed to impose restriction on special force from joining the private security sector. The minister may promulgate regulations that will empower the National Commissioner to issue clearance certificate granting permission to a member who wishes to render a security service or similar approach adopted for crime intelligence members or intelligence service regulation may be consulted for a similar approach. Let me pause there. I'll come again. Thank you.
May you stay as an honorable member. May you, because you said here in front of you are making cross record. Yeah, drink water and finish your. I can give you in 30 seconds to help.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for giving me that time. And then, Chair, also on the institutional culture, discipline and ethics, the portfolio committee on police, Honorable Cameron, should further consider a comprehensive review of rank structure, organizational culture, and institutional ethos of SAPS to assess their alignment, with the constitutional principle of democratic, accountable, and service-oriented policing. Such review should consider the implication of existing organizational arrangement for leadership, accountability, public trust, community-centered policing, and professionalization, and whether any legislative, policy, or administrative reforms are required to strengthen a policing culture grounded in constitutional values, responsiveness, transparency, and respect for human rights. Hence, we're saying that in the final analysis, the extent of corruption, abuse of power, lack of accountability, and disregard for the law by senior members of the SAPS is a matter of grave concern. This cannot be viewed in isolation from the militarization of the police service. To this end, the Portfolio Committee on Police should consider a review of the militarization of police ranks with an intention of reorientating the police as a service, not as a force check, in accordance with the values enshrined in the Constitution. At least to must remove certain powers of that militarization to the police. Demilitarization should therefore include returning the ministry and the department to the language and ethos of the Constitution names as a service orientated to the safety and security of the people, and retiring the force culture that militarized the ranks entrenched. We recommend the report should flag the nomenclature and ethos. Then, the matters that may disclose criminal conduct, corruption, procurement that were raised there, where appropriate matters involving potential criminal conduct should be referred to the NPA, including the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption and to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation for further assessment and investigation. Because if you look at retired Lieutenant General Vuma, came through the public participation process. She was here carrying documents, Lieutenant General Vuma, through the public participation process, and further alleged that former Minister Matlala interfered in the operation of SAPS by influencing and directing which companies should get PPE tenders from SAPS. She further alleges that Minister Matlala was central to the irregular runaway cost associated with transaction of acquiring the Telkom Tower building, which had ballooned almost 2 billion from 605 million. This matter warrants further investigation and recommends that DPCI investigate the involvement of the former minister and other actors that they can get to, that were involved in that. Additionally, Lieutenant Juma alleged that during March 2020, Lieutenant General Peter Jacob, who was at the time a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence, and Mr. Tsele purchased interception equipment to the value of 120 million rand without prerequisite exemption certificate from the Department of Justice and State Security. As a result of this, the interception equipment that they purchased remained utilized and wasted for years. This may have been a scheme unutilized. This may have been a scheme to loot the Secret Service Fund, as there was no intention to utilize this equipment. Therefore, we recommend that this must be investigated. To the people whom I've said it referred to them, they said it must be done. Then again, another issue that came out from public participation, Mr. Mkhwanazi alleged that Lieutenant General Sibiya, while serving in the city of Johannesburg as head of internal anti-corruption unit, irregularly procured spyware equipment to the value of approximately 18 million, while the municipality-led authority possessed such intelligence equipment under constitutional and statutory frameworks. Then we recommend that the allegation made by Mr. Mkhwanazi against Lieutenant General Sibiya be investigated further by other law agencies and to determine the veracity of these allegations and determine the existence of this spyware equipment. Check. I'm coming up with those recommendations. That must be included. I hope this committee will look at those issues. Thank you.
I listened to you very carefully on the reorientation of the police system in this country, whether you want it to be or whether you want to render police service. Yes. And the observations that you would have made on the witnesses, some of them who appeared before us, Mr. McBride, Ms. Sargent, and Mr. Paulo Sullivan, and lastly with that official from Joburg Metro, Mr. Mkhwanazi. No, I heard all those, and even our superior contact, Ms. van Zyl-Gous, and Ms. Silkstone, Dr. Kok. They heard all those observations and recommendations that you are making in the proposed referral. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much. But most importantly is that you have exhausted your right to speak. That you must be reminded. You must stay true to your. It's not me. It was you who said, allow me to make those cross recommendations. And I have allowed you. Honorable Skosan, you have not spoken today, and you have been very, very patient. I must credit. Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you want to do? You want to go theme by theme?
No, I'm going across.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to exhaust your rights?
Yeah, I just want you to be patient though, because I know it's gonna be a very, very deep. But obviously, you gave everyone a chance. So I was listening. I never interrupted anyone, and hopefully, no one is going to interrupt me. You know, Yeah. Thank you, Chair. As I was saying, I'm going to not only going on theme, I just want to show that I got everything here, especially I'm alone today. You know, the MK party submits this comprehensive review of the Ad Hoc Committee draft preliminary report 23 June 2026 to ensure that the factual accuracy and transparency is in line with the committee mandate. This submission draws on the latest evidence on Hansard witness statement to correct any misstatement or omissions to align the draft report with the verified record. Our aim is to strengthen the report's integrity by incorporating the MKP input consistently with prior submission and a public deliberation while avoiding substantive policy debate on those input themselves. I think you remember, Chair, that I think it is us, the EFF and the ANC, who have put inputs, you know, after we received that draft report. And I guess that would be as well be incorporated, you know, into the final report. First, we presented a refinement matrix summarizing how the MKP proposals are related to each section of the draft. We then offer a chapter by chapter critique, highlighting factual corrections, proposed wording changes, and underlying rationale. All changes suggest are substantiated by official sources, and we note where the draft already accords with evidence. Citations from the committee owns record and related documentation are provided. This submission is laid out as a formal committee document with cross-reference to the evidence. It is intended to supplement, not supplant, the draft report, and all final decision remains with the committee. Summary of the key input from us as refinement metrics. Section 7, limitations. Added a limitation noting that no oral evidence was given by the President, although he provided written response to the committee. Questions and note that Major General Ferro's crime intelligence was not called to testify. Record that certain plain witnesses, e.g. can remain outstanding, and that some evidence, e.g. promised annexure to Advocate Johnson statement is still missing. And I think the committee will recall that. Advocate Johnson promised us that within two weeks, he will submit a response on what Honorable Nombalo in particular asked her. But that was not done up to date, Chair. Now, that issue which we started earlier this morning talking about, the PGM, if I remember, they've got records. The Hansard's got a record of what transpired here. And I'm not going to withdraw anything. I'm still saying that I've said that many times, 3 times, the issue of Kandati must appear here. And as I said, I even call him. Section 7, again, number 5, note that the unresolved allegations regarding Katiso Molefe and Morgan Maumela and General Mkhwanazi identify Mr. Molefe and Ms. Maumela as members of the criminal syndicate, but their roles remain untested. The report should record this as unexplored allegation, as the evidence reader state. Now, the public participation, no specific input from us and from other parties beyond the standard process, but note that the public submission raised many of issues listed above. The section should summarize the input, witness protection, and documented access general consistent with the existing text. And I think we transverse the issue of Mashale and for better weight, Professor Dihas. I'm not sure, but yeah. If you remember, Chair, that this so-called social media tweets, because Mashale was lying on that, he was testing the Minister Mchunu, and you know, same as O'Sullivan bragging that he will bring every. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's him who said that that he brought down then Commissioner Silebi, and the only thing which O'Sullivan to me, which he accepted from this committee, is one, that he was a rapist, because he pleaded guilty on that matter. You know, in Randbeck, he accepted on that. He pleaded guilty on that. But on the other issues, there were a lot of speculation from him. Section 12 on evidentiary overview. Update to reflect an outstanding documentary evidence. The committee noted that during Advocate Arendse Johnson's testimony that he had not received all the relevant documents and requested them urgently. Similarity, it was publicly noted that Advocate Johnson had submitted documents without their attachments, which members called unacceptable. The draft should record these gaps in the record. Section 12 of this evidentiary overview ensure that all public hearing testimonies are accurately summarized. In particular, the report must correctly portray Minister Mchunu's testimony. The evidence leaders found his testimony raised significant credibility concern, including the admission that he instructed the covert recording of General Mkhwanazi and that he misrepresented to Parliament the extent of his consultation with President on December 2024 directive. If the draft minimizes these points, it should be amended to reflect them. Section 12 of evidentiary overview. The draft should clearly state that General Khan was never called as a witness, despite numerous reference in evidence to his role. His absence was noted by evidence leaders as unresolved issue. The omission should be marked as limitation, as MK Party proposed in most of the meetings which we had as a core committee. The findings and recommendations. I think we, as MKP, we note that the evidence leaders drew particular conclusion. For example, that the minister's directive on the 31st December 2024 was issued without consultation with the National Commissioner or the President. And with after the fact explanation that conflicted with the minister's own testimony, the draft finding section should accurately reflect these conclusions. Likewise, the recommendations about vetting, strengthening the task team, clarifying the crime intelligence mandates, and introducing the oversight, judiciary or legislative, are well founded in the evidence and should be retained expanded as needed. Scope and our term of reference. No specific MKP inputs were submitted on the basic introductory section in terms of reference. The draft background and the mandate statement appear sound, e.g., the establishing the inquiry under Rule 169, Section 1 following the Mkhwanazi 6 July 2025 media briefing. We know that the evidence summarized, they inserted later, you see below, clarify that the President affidavit explained it could not establish PKTT directly. As you know, that it was the issue of the IMC, that, other ministers were not informed about the disbandment of this PKTT. And I guess that Minister Mchunu, except that he made a big mistake on that. The draft structure should ensure the consistency with the evidence leaders. Executive summary, e.g., President role structures of the PKTT without a factual error. For instance, any text suggestion that the President himself created a task team must be corrected to reflect that it was done by the Interministerial Committee on his behalf. Section 7, these are the limitations of the report before us. Written answers versus oral evidence. The MKP proposed that the evidence supports a limitation that no oral evidence was heard from the President. Though he answered the question in writing, the draft already knows that the President did not testify, but should explicitly that written responses were received. The President press release of the 17 March 2026 confirms President Cyril Ramaphosa has formally provided the written response to the committee in preparation. And I think when General Mkhwanazi was here, we transversed that as well to say the President has responded, though it did not appear before us. And that alone suggests that in some, in a public space, that the President is above the law, because he's the only person, who we caught who responded in writing. Besides that, the IGI, let us down in terms of one of the former member who was denied right to appear before us. This material context, readers should correctly infer that the President declined to engage. We suggest wording like, it is noted that President Ramaphosa have declined to engage directly, did not appear in person before the committee, but furnished us with a formal written answers to each question on the 17th of March 2026. The committee has acknowledged this response in summary. The lack of oral testimony is a limitation. We must agree, all of us. Though the President written evidence is on record. The witness gap, the draft must be recorded that Major General Feroz Khan, Crime Intelligence Deputy, was never called to give evidence. Despite the centrality on his allegation action in testimony, the evidence leaders explicitly noted an issue repeatedly raised by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, namely the role of General Khan had not been fully explored because General Khan had not been called to testify. This language should be quoted or paraphrased as an express of coverage. Similarity in any other plain witness, e.g., misconduct Barnard, or in-camera witness who possess classified evidence should be mentioned under limitation if they were not heard. As a member of this committee, I urge you that this omission be documented rather than tossed over. And I think Honorable Nhlanhla spoke about the issue of Honorable Barnard. We say, as she said in the the Intelligence Co-Committee, the Portfolio Committee there, that herself and Honorable Adams aired by publicizing these matters of crime intelligence in public. Molefe and Maumela allegation. General Mkhwanazi named Katiso Molefe, as I said earlier, as a high level and Morgan Maumela of syndicate members, so-called cartel. The draft limitation findings should say the alleged involvement of Mr. Molefe and Maumela was not tested in evidence. The evidence leaders report shows that Mkhwanazi names do not appear, but there's no confirming testimony. For example, Advocate Arendse summary notes Mkhwanazi identified Ms. Maumela on the 18th March 2026. However, without any cross-examination or supplementary evidence, this remains an allegation only. As you know, there's nothing which happened to Morgan Maumela as we speak. The only thing we know in this committee is that his vehicles were confiscated and nothing else. The witness allegation about a person such as Katiso Molefe and Morgan Maumela are recorded in evidence, but remain unverified and thus appear as untested assertions and in the report. This matches the MKP submitted amendment to the record as untested allegation, with referral considered only if new evidence emerges. Scope beyond SAPS, the MKP point out that the inquiry span all criminal justice institutions, not just the police. The evidence supports this broad view. Numerous witnesses described as cartel influencing the National Prosecuting Authority, IDAC, magistracy, and correctional services. And I want to emphasize this, Chair, to you again, that I think I've raised this thing many times, that we have scratched the surface. We have not eaten the meat. We are still on the bones. The issue of the correctional service, in fact, was untouched in this committee. The issue of the judiciary was untouched in this committee. The only things which we hear in this committee in the last 8 months or 9 months was more about the police. And I think our chair who's sitting here, who I'm a member of the Police Portfolio Committee, can attest to that. And really, it's disappointing that we had a joint committee of the Portfolio Committee of Justice and Police. But when it comes to the issue of the judiciary, it's like the untested water. I've raised that as well. And I'm saying it again, that when it comes to bite us as the co-committee, or maybe not in this administration, this should be noted that we've raised these issues. And I know that we will be tired, of coming to this co-committee. As Parliament, there's a lot of work to be done in Parliament. But I would suggest, Chair, as well to the Justice Portfolio Committee who's here, and the Chief Whip of the largest party is here, and the Chairperson of the Police is here. It's only the Correctional Service Chairperson who's not here. That we need to have another committee, maybe in the next 8 months, maybe next year by April. Because for me, we should not be feared of any government institution, be judges, be correctional service or whatever. we should make sure that we dig deep, into those institutions. Because Chairman Mkhwanazi said many things. And I can tell you today, I'm told that Brigadier Macheni was dismissed. He's from the forensic unit in the police service. That tells you that this commission, well, Nhlanhla, which I had my doubt, when it started because of what happened to Zondo Commission. But there's results which are visible as we speak. Not only narrative or political statement or PR statement to say, some commission have worked. There's Nugent Commission, there's Mupati Commission. And, for me, I still have my doubt because for me, they were not biting. It's more about the big names. We've got this commission, they've got findings. And, when you have some chair, you seek for a legal opinion, but you still go against the legal opinion you seek for. The draft, this evidence chair supports this broader view. Numerous witnesses describe cartel influence in the National Prosecuting Authority, as I said. Now, that has to be probed, chair. For example, the evidence leaders flag allegations of criminality infiltration within correctional service and the judiciary. Hence, I'm saying we have to explore fully these issues which were raised. We recommend that including language such as witness alleged cartel infiltration into a wide range of institutions like SAPS, NPA, IDAC, courts and prison, etc. But the committee inquiries into this allegation were necessarily limited to the evidence presented to us. In particular, one acting judge was mentioned in evidence, but no further judicial officials were examined. These remain an open issues. Public witness and confidentialization. We need to make sure that this should be noted. This should be noted. That our proposal about in-camera evidence, e.g., to protect whistleblowers, ongoing cases, the draft, current text on public participation should simply reflect what was done. Several members of the public, including the crime intelligence officers and civil society witnesses, did testify before us. Some under restricted conditions. Hence, I said about the IGI. One witness came in here, but unfortunately, he was not given a right to give us evidence here. And the chair ultimately scheduled closed session on sensitive topic. We have no specific factual correction here, but suggests a clarifying statement. Where witness or evidence requires confidentiality, the committee arranged closed session hearing or redacted transcript as agreed during the deliberation. See committee meeting minutes on the 11th of November 2025. This follows from the committee resolution to hold a closed session at Patoy's hearing. Section 10, public participation. No MKP, let me put it this way. No MKP specific submission beyond routine oversight. The draft already details the public submission process. We know that some submission, e.g. by civil society or police interest group, overlapped with the parliamentary evidence. The draft fairly summarized key components, community concern. MKP has no correction here. Section 12, evidentiary overview. This section must accurately summarize the evidence. Several MKP concerns arise regarding the presentation on the testimony and documents. Advocate Johnson evidence. The draft outlines Advocate Andrew Johnson testimony on SAPS corruption and IDAC operations. It should include that the committee requests additional documentation at her hearing, which we asked her up to date. We have not received any. And I think that's undermining our core committee. As a parliamentary press release noted, the committee further noted that it had not received all relevant documents related to these investigations and requests that the outstanding information be submitted as soon as possible. The draft should say so. Similarity, the country shows frustration over missing attachment. One member exclaimed last week we had Advocate Johnson, she left some documents, no attachment. It is unacceptable. This contemptuous remark by our member, honorable member of the EFF, underlines the fact that important supporting documents have not been filed. We recommended and adding a brief note. The committee observed that some exhibits promised by Advocate Johnson and added by another witness were incomplete, e.g. Johnson filing select annexures, which was a matter of concern. Advocate Patoy evidence. Advocate Shamila Patoy, I know he's retired. She not necessarily retired. I think her term of office expired. Advocate Shamila Patoy testimony covered prosecutorial challenges. The draft should appropriately frame her remarks. For instance, as Mkhwanazi sees the party, is of our opinion that is against that she concealed the name of a corrupt prosecutor. Patoy repeatedly explained that she referred the allegation to IDAC and will seek legal advice before disclosing any name. She alleged that her refusal was not for personal protection, but for due process. As she later explained, the draft should present in the context, having refused to reveal the name of an alleged corrupt prosecutor, Patoy explained her referral of suspicious prosecutor to IDAC. And while pressured to name the individual was resisted, she cited constitutional protection for suspect. She offered to reconsider in a closed session. Underscoring the legal question, the committee minutes show she said she will consult the counsel before naming the person. Advocate Patoy on 19.3. It is a view that that the draft preliminary report materially underrates the significance of Advocate Shamila Patoy evidence and fails to reflect the manner in which it was experienced by members during the inquiry. In the MK party assessment, Advocate Patoy deliberately concealed the identity of a prosecutor alleged to have been compromised by organized crime elements, notwithstanding repeated direct question from committee members and despite committee oversight mandate. A continued refusal to disclose identity, even after extensive questioning. He had a practical effect of withholding the information that was central to the committee investigation. The MK party further considered Advocate Patoy to have been among the obstructive, confrontational, and uncooperative witness to appear before this committee like Sullivan. With her approach, frustrating rather than assisting Parliament constitutional oversight function. I think that it's a cause for concern, and that should be documented in our report. The draft report should therefore accurately record both the substance of the evidence and the significant concern expressed by members regarding a refusal to disclose material information, rather than characterize her conduct merely as an exercise of legal coaching or procedural restraint. The draft report should therefore state Advocate Shamila Patoy acknowledged that the information had to come to her attention concerning a prosecutor alleged to have been compromised by organized criminal element. It's viewed that MK Party that notwithstanding requests by members of the committee, Advocate Patoy conceal the identity of that prosecutor. I'm emphasizing that. The MK Party further consider that Advocate Patoy approach through her testimony was among the most obstructive. And I'll go to 19.4. Ms. De Haas and Machucha allegation. The testimony of Ms. Mary De Haas. I've changed now from Professor De Haas to Mary. You remember when we started on our deliberation, when she came in as a witness, she came in as a professor and later a doctor, and now Ms. Mary De Haas and Dr. Shamil Machucha introduced an allegation against the now judge De Haas, not necessarily, Ms. De Haas and Machucha. The draft should accurately note what was heard from Advocate Patoy testified that her decision on the directive was influenced by unverified allegations from these sources. Despite the IG and the Commissioner findings, them unreliable. If the draft omits this, it should state that Patoy and Minister Mchunu were informed about the IG and NC consider those allegations unreliable. Lord rate evidence if included. If the draft touches the testimony of Metro Police and the police itself, etc., nothing specific from us, I can that attest to you if that is included in the draft. But Minister Mchunu evidence, the evidence leaders found Mr. Mchunu testimony problematic. The draft must not whitewash this. We highlight 2 points. Recording of Mkhwanazi, as I said earlier, before you gave me this time, Chair. Mchunu admitted ordering his chief of staff to secretly record General Mkhwanazi's testimony. And I said earlier that it was wrong. And I must repeat, it was a judgment of error from Minister Mchunu. Advocate Arendse explicitly note this admission. In the draft, if the draft downplays this, it should be corrected. Minister acknowledged he had instructed a covert recording of the witness. That's a fact. A fact highlighted by evidence leaders as well. Consultation with the President. Mchunu told Parliament that he had consulted the President about the directive, but Arendse records that he later misrepresented to Parliament what the consultation entailed. The draft should say that at least one of the Mchunu statements in Parliament was contradicted by the documentary evidence. It should not be just vague. Overall, the evidence leaders concluded that Minister Mchunu evidence raised significant concern, e.g. about the timing of the directive. At the end of the year, whilst we're busy with Umpemba buying some, firecrackers, buying meat, all over, there was a letter which was as well linked by Brian Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi had that letter before our chairperson of the police had it here, or even the president didn't know that, and the chief whip here, he can attest to that. He didn't know about that letter. Now, the draft summary of Mchunu, if any, should reflect this judgment. Perhaps quoting or paraphrasing Arendse language about the credibility issues. The core of this evidence concerning the PKTT directive. The draft correctly knows that Mchunu issued the directive on the 31st of December 2024 to disband the PKTT. MKP urges it to explicitly state that the procedural irregularities, the directive was issued later on the New Year's Eve, was not brought to the National Commissioner, who learned over it via WhatsApp. And guess what? Mkhwanazi had that. Brian Mkhwanazi already had that letter. He was privileged. And for anyone to dispute the relationship between Brian Mkhwanazi and the Minister Mchunu is misleading us. And I think it should be captured. And if he stated the reason, e.g. winding down the task team came only afterwards and were not contemporaneous. These points are central findings from the evidence. We know that the evidence leader summary and likely the draft concluded that whether this directive was lawful remains for the committee to decide. Any mention of possible justification in the draft should be balanced by noting that the leader's finding that was an issue without prior consultation and that this may have exceeded the minister's power. And now we are saying it did, because we had the National Commission sitting here and we read the Constitution. Yeah, we know the powers of the minister. In terms of operational issues, it's a no-go area. It's not for us as politicians or the executive to get involved. Hence, like the committee, we only do oversight. Section 1314 findings of the facts and the conclusion, Chair. The MK Party emphasized that the findings section must be tied closely to the evidence. The evidence leaders detail finding point 1, Roman figure into 4. It should guide the draft conclusions in particular. Directive ultravirus. The draft should highlight the anonymity of witnesses and the evidence leaders that President Ramaphosa did not approve or even see the directive beforehand. And on his response, the President said so. If the draft proposed any finding that the directive was within the minister's right, that must be carefully qualified. The constitutional division of power suggests the minister cannot unilaterally suspend any active SAPS task team which is operational. Or unilaterally, constitutional division of power suggests minister cannot unilaterally suspend any SAPS task team which is an operational function under the commission co-control. The committee must decide that the point, but that draft cannot report the evidence. For example, General Matlala testified it was beyond the normal ministerial authority and was done without a customary consultation. We advise here that the language such as all witnesses agree that the directive was issued without the president or the commissioner's consent, whether it was lawful in context of section 206/207 of the Constitution, is a matter of final resolution. Findings on the corrupt networks. We know that as MK Party that the evidence of systemic corruption, e.g. SAPS procurement, fraud, irregular investigation is substantial. For instance, the evidence leaders recount that Ms. Matlala, the Deputy Minister of Police, admitted that 500,000 cash payment to a former police minister during a tender irregularities. This finding justify the recommendations on reform, but also specific prosecution. If the draft findings, in fact, I'm saying, if the draft findings list does not mention this admission, it should at least allude to them as evidence of high level complicity. And that should not be allowed. We should not be complicit in this committee. We should make sure that we are above board, because these millions of South Africans are waiting for this ad hoc committee. It cannot be a wasteful expenditure. Recommendation of recommendations, that's section 14. The MK party supports the evidence leaders' forward-looking recommendations. In particular, we endorse the vetting reform, lifestyle audits, screening for senior SAPS posts, strengthening and continuing the PKTT, because the PKTT undisputable. We cannot equate it to a budget. When some political statements are made to say it was a waste of money. We know now 7 people have been killed as we speak here. Politicians from different parties have been killed. We still need PKTT. In particular, we endorse the vetting reform, as I said, and establishing a Gauteng counterpart as compared to people saying it's in KwaZulu-Natal. And here in the Western Cape, where the killing of people is like, it's normal. It cannot be normal. When kids and children are being raped, it's not that we are saying all the money must go to PKTT. I mean, yesterday we afforded to have 600 million from nowhere. Chair, I think we still have to transverse that in our portfolio committee, because it means when we need money, the National Treasury will give us money. We agree that we have to reform the crime intelligence, and its role must be clarified. And I think the Honorable Nhlanhla said that as well. And oversight of the Secret Service account need to be attended, because it was a cause for concern here that that crime intelligence is infested with some dodgy characters who are in fact leaking information. We also know that the leaders call for the expanding of IDAC mandate and properly operationalize the inspector judge. We differ. In fact, IDAC should be should be history, because it's used to, I think the Honorable Nhlanhla said that as well, that is seen as weaponized against opponents, like the then so-called Scorpion. That if I don't like you, I said it here in this committee, that is the Indian cabal at IDAC, Sulen or Pepelonchi and Brian Pariachi and Perumal and others. We cannot allow that. That there's a group of people, when the police, we are not saying people should not be arrested or should not be investigated, but it looks like there's a particular agenda. There's a particular agenda against some of the top officials in the Southern Police Service. Not that all of them are corrupt, because we cannot paint everyone with one brush. You've got still good men and women in blue. The draft should include or preserve the recommendations which largely anchor on our previous submission as Mkhwanazi Ad Hoc Party on the anti-corruption oversight. If any specific recommendation from the draft contradicts the evidence, for example, a weak or non-binding probe of the crime intelligence directorate cases, it should be strengthened. Finally, the MKP particular supports the including the recommendation from 47 that all incoming national commissioners must present policing reform plans to Parliament at the outset of their term, as long as the term accountability measures. It must be measured. I'm concerned as well, Honorable Sangoni, because we still have another day, Chief Whip, but you can drink some little coffee there. If the draft report formats allow for the minority or additional views, the MKP may append further comments. For example, it may emphasize the need for the committee to consider the classified IG report on crime intelligence, mentioned in evidence but not delivered. The Prima letter, if you remember that, it causes a lot of problems here. I know that he is still in prison, but he was able to call and send emails and But as the representative of the people, we have to make sure that we indeed make sure that the committee, the administrative and the legal team note this. Any written affidavits filed at the end, all noted by Arendse, the draft should acknowledge these new evidence items and their procedural status. In particular, the unanswered letter from Germany Prim, handed in the last hearing, should be listed as an exhibit received but not fully verified. It should be listed, but it should be noted that it was not fully verified. Finally, the MK submits that the report be paginated and indexed as per parliamentary practice. Sections should have a clear headings matching their content. All quotes or factual statements drawn from the evidence should be footnoted. They should be footnoted, as done here. And the text should be fully justified and space 1.5 lines throughout the final document. Where the direct quotes from the witness or the evidence leaders are used, they should appear in verbatim with citations. Where paraphrasing is used, it should still reference to the source lines as done above. The MK party offers the submission in the spirit of thorough oversight. We trust that the incorporated these corrections and clarifications will ensure that the draft preliminary report faithfully reflects the parliamentary record. In summary, I want to emphasize, the report must note the president written answers and that he gave no oral testimony. It should record that Major General can never testify. Allegations involving Katiso Molife and Morgan Mawela should clearly be marked as unexplored. The inquiry findings on the December 12, 2024 directive, no prior consultation, inconsistent explanation should be fully reported. Documentary evidence gaps missing attachments should be transparently noted. Any instance where the testimony was contradicting by record, e.g. Minister Mchunu misstatement must be stated. We stand ready to supply any additional information or clarifications to the committee. This submission, together with the party early inputs and fully evidential record, should guide final refinement of this report. Reference parliamentary transcript are cited above the committee official numbering, Hansard PMG reference, to substantiate all my factual assertions. Chair, I think I've made my submission. I'm going to make a comment before you go to my last comment, because you said it's once and I won't be allowed to come back. Now, let me marinate my statement. The three comments of the draft preliminary report, Chief Whip and the Chair. The report delivers a measured but damning indictment of the systematic governance failure. It correctly identifies recurring weaknesses in the executive operational boundaries, particular of this 31st December 2024 disbandment of PKTT. Now, we know now that there's a crime intelligence moratorium, docket control, procurement of safeguard, interagency coordination, and crime intelligence stability. These are the frame and institutionalized vulnerability that enable operational disruption of the institutionalized constitution and origin of public trust. Findings that align with long-standing opposition concern about political interference and the capture of the specialized unit by improper influence. Is deliberately parliamentary limits are both strengthened and co-constrained. The committee rightly confines itself, to the oversight findings rather than criminal determination, understanding that we are not a court of law. We don't have the powers to prosecute anyone. But it would be misleading to say this ad hoc committee has no powers, because when we finish with our report, the Parliament will take the decision on what we have recommended here, our findings and recommendations. This Chair as well. I think it's a concern for everyone. However, this cumulative record, including the contested relationship, high value contract irregularities, e.g. your Medicare. For me, Medicare is a drop in an ocean. The serious matters with South African Police Service. The budget of 127 billion rand. We are only talking about 360 million here. I think we have to dig deep. The metropolitan issues are, for me, untested waters. I'm finishing, Chief Whip. However, I'm concluding. However, Chair, the effective crippling of political killing investigation discloses matters that now require agent. Hence, I was mentioning 7 already been killed. And we are still 3 months to go or 4 months to go before the local government election. And I think General Mkhwanazi was very clear about that here, to say that we need to strengthen, the police service. For me in particular, the PKTT. Now, the report's restraint should not become a shield for inaction. Recommendations are necessary but insufficient without enforcement. Proposal on a clear command boundary, strengthen the IPID and the whistleblower protection. Crime intelligence governance reform, procurement control, and structured parliamentary monitoring of implementation are welcome. Yet without binding timelines, dedicated oversight mechanism, and political will to confront organized crime infiltration and elite protection network, this risks joining previous commission reports as another well-drafted but unimplemented document. As Mkhwanazi party, the committee have helped to surface these issues. The real test is whether Parliament will now compel meaningful reform rather than allow further delay. There must be a finding as well to everyone, and we have to make recommendations, because we deal with many people. People are asking us, because as I was saying earlier, that we are representing the people, that some people are arrested, some people are untouchable. They are not arrested. You'll be told about investigation which goes on forever and ever. And hence people have doubts, to say maybe as well as we'll have a problem, of implementing our findings and our recommendation. I said, no, that will happen. And I hope that we're not going to extend that, because we've been extending until, Chair, what I said earlier in closing. And finally, that maybe by April, I think the Speaker, if he can give us another time, Chief Whip, through your intelligence, that my emphasis on the issue of the judiciary and correctional service, I'm not going to back down on, because really we promised, and General Mkhwanazi on the 6th, he gave us an opportunity to make sure that we know what we know today. We know today that General Sinono has resigned. We know that today Brigadier Machene has been dismissed. And that tells you that if General Mkhwanazi was not brave enough, though he's got so many attacks, he has so many attacks from left, right, and center. People are not happy. Some criminals are not happy. They tried. Hence, I was saying the one rapist yesterday tried at the Mazanga Commission, but they chow him alive to discredit General Mkhwanazi assertion, to say there's a problem in this country in terms of criminal justice system. And it's been proven, even if we have no finding as yet. But the results are there for anyone to see. But obviously, some are driving some agendas to discredit General Mkhwanazi. We are not saying he's perfect, but indeed, for me, where I'm sitting, I'm saying what a blessing to have a man in blue when he was criticized about wearing a uniform, a camouflage, the pettiness of some of the high-ranking officials and some politicians about why we're wearing a camouflage. We're concerned about the uniform instead of the content which he gave this country to reset and to reset the integrity of the police service in this country. I thank you, Chair.
We thank you so much. Go away. You can't. If you go, I go with you. Thank you so much, Honorable Skosana. There is one statement you made that the president has declined to come before the committee. He didn't. It was our decision, Chief Whip. It was our decision. I have always been sober in every meeting that we had. It was our decision that he was going to respond to questions in writing. We met here and debated it and agreed. Yeah. And then we sent him questions, all of us who had questions submitted. And the office of the president came back and requested a further extension, and we agreed. Yeah. Okay. The dissenting opinion was expressed outside the meeting, but at the time the meeting closed, there was a unanimous agreement. Honorable members, I see Honorable Tropa has made his submissions. Honorable Nhlanhla has made his submissions. Honorable Sokanyile, Honorable Mattheys, Honorable Skosana have all made their submissions. Can I check? Do we still have any honorable member who want to make cross-cutting submission before we revert to the theme-by-theme approach? Okay. You want to make cross-cutting submissions, Honorable Sangweni? Do you want to make cross-cutting submissions?
You know, they're not necessarily cross-cutting, Chair, but I will make them cross-cutting so that we can. Would that be enough?
Yeah. The reason why I want to ascertain before you speak is so that you are not seen to be enjoying more rights than.
Okay. I'll come to the. I'll make them cross-cutting.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And then, okay, let me determine the order of speakers. Honorable Mngango, are you ready after her, or you will need some time?
No, good afternoon, Honorable. I would need some time myself ready.
Okay. Honorable Breitenbach, are you coming to speak?
Chair, I'm so tired of listening to everybody else speak. I was largely covered by Honorable Klopper. If I need something, I'll wrap up at the end.
Okay. Honorable Cameron, let me give you time to finish what you are doing, and then you will let me know. Okay. Chief Whip?
No, Chair, it's the same for me as with the Honorable Breitenbach.
Okay. So it means Honorable Mngango, we will check with Honorable Sols when he comes back, and then it means it will be him, and then you will be the last. And in case he's not here, we are going to close. Okay, Honorable Sangweni, this is your time now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think I'll be very brief. I promise you nothing like Honorable Skosana. Chair, let me thank you, for having steered this process until where we are now, and to also just echo appreciation to the team for the work that they put in. This report, I think, as it currently stands, is a testament to the work that we had sought to do. As African National Congress, we don't believe it's perfect, but we think that in a large part it fulfills the mandate that we had to ensure that where governance failures are identified, where there are allegations that have been put forward and so forth, those are thoroughly investigated. And I think taken together with the Matlala Commission, we don't necessarily believe that, it's a weakness that there were parallel processes, but that it has strengthened what we believe Parliament and the President would have sought to do, which is to really open an avenue for South Africans to engage on the challenges that are there within the criminal justice system, but beyond that, to look at what solutions from a reform perspective can come through, but also in terms of the prosecutions that we are seeing. So we commend these processes, and I think we must be clear that it shows the determination of this government to fight against corruption. It shows the reforms that have been put in since 2018 are starting to bear fruit, and we believe that going forward, the implementation of these reforms will take that fight much further, Chair, as the African National Congress, we took an approach in this process, and I think it was what we understood as the mandate of our party to approach these proceedings with an opening and inquiring mind. And what that meant was that in the hearings, we were open to all possibilities. We were looking to see whether the truth had been told. We did not come here, unduly suspicious, unduly believing. And I do want to put it on record, Chair, that I think from the recommendations, referrals, and findings that our colleagues in the ANC have made, you will see that we have lived up to exactly that commitment and posture. So what I'm going to do is to just speak on the last few set of recommendations, and I think these speak to the issues of public trust, of institutional credibility, of national security implications. But I wanted to start with just an addition on the limitations. We think, Chair, we've never seen you angry in this committee until the day you had to interact and inform us on issues relating to how the committee through yourself was being treated by the JSCI. And we think that was a major limitation on the work of this committee, as we never got to ultimately engage then with what the now suspended IGI had wanted to put on the before the committee. So we think that must be erased. I know there are honourable members who think that we shouldn't consider some of this as evidence, but again, from the ANC, we approached it from a perspective of looking at a balance of probabilities. So all the versions that had been put to us, which is most likely true, and the questioning and engagement we did was part and parcel of that. So on the first one, Chair, that I want to speak to in terms of recommendations, It's a recommendation which relates to the civilian secretariat of the South African Police Service. And I want to preface it by saying section, if I'm not wrong, section 204 and section 208 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa are identical, actually word for word, when it relates to the establishment of a secretary for police and a secretary for defense. If you give me a second, Chair, I'm just trying to go to that section quickly. I can find you. Okay, so the section in the Constitution speaks to the establishment. Okay, I can't find the exact section. It speaks to the establishment of a secretary for police and a secretary for defense. Exact same wording in the Constitution. Now, what the Defense Force has done is that, in accordance to what they understand to be civil military obedience, the Defense Force went to establish a secretary for defense who is the accounting officer of the SANDF. On the other hand, the SAPS went to establish a civilian secretariat service which plays some sort of oversight role, or not some sort of oversight role, policy, stakeholder engagement, and so forth for the police. We want to contend that the challenges that you are having within the South African Police Service, some of them are occasioned by the fact that you expect uniformed officials who are trained police service and men to be running an administration of government. And we are making a recommendation that we should consider an amendment that the SAPS Act must be reviewed and on the powers and functions of the Civilian Secretariat for Police, as I indicated within the context of the civil military obedience as modeled in the Defense Force. The differences in powers between the Secretary of Defense and the Secretariat of Police is important in that the two institutions are born out of sections of the Constitution that are similar word for word, and the Defense Act assigns the powers of accounting authority to the Secretary of Defense, and the SAPS Act assigns the powers of the accounting authority to the National Police Commissioner as opposed to the Secretariat of Police. So we're recommending that amendments should be made to legislation to ensure that the Secretary of Police is the accounting authority and the National Commissioner be the head of operations, similar to the Chief of the Defence Force in the South African National Defence Force. On the second issue, Chair, relates to the Section 6 of the IPID Amendment Act, which allows the Minister of Police to nominate a suitable candidate who must serve as an executive director with the concurrence of Parliament. The Minister is then ultimately responsible for the dismissal or any career incidents of the executive director, as well as the renewal or non-renewal of their contract. Now, our proposal is that this section of the IPID Amendment Act should be amended to allow Parliament to process applications for the executive director and to interview suitable candidates, which can then be recommended to the President for appointment. We are further saying Section 31 of the IPID Act should also be amended such that the disciplining and recommendations for the removal of the executive director to be the responsibility of the Secretary of Police with concurrence with the Portfolio Committee of Police. And as I said, this may necessitate that particular amendment. Chair, you'll remember here we had received testimony from Mr. McBride, who alleged that there was interference specifically by former Minister Nhlanhla in relation to his work until he was ultimately suspended. Now, we believe that too much power currently resides with the Minister when it comes to the appointment and career incidences of the IPID Director. We are also proposing, Chair, that the draft committee document makes a lot of recommendations with regards to mandate overlaps, rule clarification, so we're not going to repeat that, but we do want to add that we need to ensure that the Civilian Secretariat and IPID, their mandates are also clearly delineated between the two. Civilian Secretariat is a constitutional body exercising civilian oversight over the police service. IPID shares more or less the same mandate, and consideration must be given that IPID is located under the Civilian Secretariat body of the police instead of the Minister of Police, once again strengthening that delineation and independence that we are looking for there. Also on IPID, Chair, we've seen IPID get weaponized a couple of times. A number of recommendations have been made in that regard. We just want to add one additional recommendation, which is that Section 28(1)(c) of the IPID Act is also considered for amendment. This section currently reads that the Directorate must investigate any complaint relating to the discharge of an official firearm by any police officer. Now, this has been, as I've said, weaponized and abused to investigate police who are executing their lawful enforcement powers, and we'd wish that we strengthen it, that we confine the investigation to the unlawful discharge of firearms by members of SAPS. And then finally, Chair, you had said that there was a matter that we had raised in the morning that we could return to, and you will advise me when perhaps we may return to it, which is the treatment of issues that have since come out at the Matlala Commission. Specifically, in this instance, it was relating to the evidence that Mr. Matlala had tabled before us regarding what he said was extortionist practices from Mr. L. Now, we do believe, obviously, that he who alleges must prove, but given the fact that now Mr. Matlala's plea bargain, we don't have sight of, we don't know what to make of his evidence, so we're not able to make a recommendation there, but we would still wish to do so when an opportunity arises. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Those are our submissions. Leanne, the African National Congress rests.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sangoni. Can you speak through the microphone?
Leanne, the chairperson, please says repeat that you are impressed with the African National Congress on the record, please.
Through the microphone.
I am so incubated.
Yeah, you have used the word impressed in the same line with the African National Congress. Thank you so much, Honorable Sangoni. The last part that you have mentioned, we may not be able to discuss it because there may even be more information coming from the plea bargain than only the part on it. So I think those three matters. One, matters that will be emanating from the plea bargain of Mr. Matlala. Number two, the information that was presented at the Madanga Commission yesterday by Honorable Shongwe. And three, the claim that there were witnesses that were ought to be protected by the Ad Hoc Committee and they were not, which was made by Honorable Breitenbach, and any other matter that may be brought to the attention of the committee. Let's wait until all those details have been sufficiently provided, and then we can decide when, before we do the final adoption of our report, come and discuss this matter. Honorable Sols, yourselves, Honorable Sols and Honorable Mwango, are the two members standing between us and the adjournment. So Honorable Mwango has requested that we take you before him so that the input and the comments that you make can also help him to settle. Because I told him that in the morning when we started, the majority of the honorable members looked very tense and nervous, like they were going to the examination. And that happens to be infectious on his part. He also wants to settle, and he requested that we must humbly plead to present before him.
Chair, I have never made it a habit to say no.
Yeah.
So,
and I know that earlier on you requested to take your presentation. You can still do that, but this time you are going to do it without being paused. If you want to start with theme 3, you will alert us to say, I'm starting with theme 3, and then you present and say, Chair, I'm now done with theme 3, I'm going to theme 4. Or if you want to just start it and finish it as a cross-cutting presentation, the ball is in your court.
Chairperson, I note your implicit instruction and I'll even submit to that.
Okay.
And just for clarity, it is at this point at the end I can provide my input on this.
Yes. You may no longer have any other opportunity, so use the opportunity that you have, maximum.
Thank you, Chairperson. All right. I think I'll start at theme 4.
Just a moment, Honorable Matthias, you were not here when Honorable Kosana was presenting. Yeah, there is part of his presentation that you missed. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so now let's allow Honorable Sols to make his presentation from theme 3 up to theme 7, including findings and recommendations, which is page 400. So he will start from page 298 to 400. And thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. I want to just reiterate first our approach to ensure that the committee, we do not come across as having chosen a side. My commitment is to ensure that we treat all the evidence and we make such submission. So I want to debunk the notion immediately that there is no one here that wants to discredit our hero with Holt, General Mkhwanazi. No one wants to do that here. Our job is to submit our findings and having heard all sides. So that is my commitment. And the report here seems to be creating an imbalance, and I am going to attempt in my time to try and bring that balance so that we have both sides properly reflect. Theme number 3. So the structural fragmentation and communication failures between the provincial commands, specialized units, and the national oversight bodies. I propose the following findings: that we state that we found a severe breakdown in lateral communication that exists between the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Command and the National Crime Intelligence. This lack of integration resulted in specialized operations being handled within institutional silos, directly degrading operational efficiency and fostering mutual suspicion. Further find that the parallel reporting line used by various commanders bypassed the established statutory chain of creating an administrative environment where critical intelligence was weaponized rather than shared through formal channels. Our recommendations on that front: we recommend that the National Commissioner must issue a binding directive mandating the creation of a joint operational coordination protocol. This protocol must legally bar any provincial or specialized commander from executing or altering high-stakes unit mandates without formal written authorization from both national and Theme 4, the integrity of the systems and evidence validation and accountable witness standards. Here, of course, our focus zooms into the vetting framework, the forensic data reliability, and holding all leadership, including General Mkhwanazi, to uniform standards of truthfulness. Everyone must be treated. The committee, I propose, should find that the integrity systems within SAPS command structures failed significantly when senior leadership acted upon and publicized unverified, flawed forensic data. We have already mentioned the other witnesses that has done so, but this report has intentionally neglected that the same happened with our hero, General Mkhwanazi, with the formal retraction of his explosive allegation that Mr. Matlala made illicit payments to former Minister Bekitele. That in itself, stated under oath, reveals a profound failure in basic investigative verification. Just like we do with other witnesses, that basic investigative verification failure should be mentioned as something that compromised the operations of the South African police. Of course, the only reason why I'm not mentioning the other witnesses is because they are already mentioned. There's already a zooming into the failures on their side. I'm just trying to create the balance. Further find that relying on misidentification of cell phone numbers to level career-ending corruption charges against executive figures demonstrates an unacceptable evidentiary gap within SAPS, acted upon prematurely. These unverified claims caused severe reputational damage and actively destabilized the institutional governance and operations of. Further finding, to achieve complete balance, the committee should look at the proposition of a finding that the report must cross-examine the nature of General Mkhwanazi's own record, hotel meetings with Mr. Ket Matlala, or meeting, we only know of one meeting, just as the report rigorously tests the integrity of, for example, former Minister Bekitele's presence at the properties linked to Mr. Matlala, caused, unfortunately, the death, or it's linked to the death of, allegedly, Babita Diakora. In the same way that links are tested, so also it must apply an identical standard of scrutiny to the presence of General Mkhwanazi at the hotel meeting with Ket to determine whether his provincial command was compromised by a conflict of interest or an allegedly corrupt. So here's the recommendations. It is recommended that the Minister of Police initiate an independent administrative review into the conduct of Minister Mchunu, all the other generals, including General Mkhwanazi, regarding the premature dissemination of, in his case, false cell phone analysis data. This review must hold him to the exact same disciplinary and credibility benchmarks applied to all other witnesses. Recommendation, the Inspector General for Intelligence must investigate the hotel meetings to establish a definitive, publicly transparent finding on whether any conflict of interest occurred, ensuring that rank does not shield any of it from accountability. Item 5, we zoom into the focus of allegations of corrupted supply chain management and the operational impact of executive proximity to state contracts. We find that proximity between high-ranking police officials and active state vendors, such as Mr. Matlala, creates severe institutional risks and undermines procurement integrity. The recommendation there, National Treasury, we recommend that National Treasury must assume a supervisory role over all high-value SAPS security, if they are not already doing so. SAPS security, technology, and specialized unit procurement processes to prevent any executive or provincial command manipulation. 6, we zoom in the continuity of specialized investigative units amid administrative restructuring and leadership conflict. We must find that the operational effectiveness of specialized units, including border protection and political killing investigations, was severely compromised by the internal civil war in SAP's top-ranking leadership that in our sessions was dubbed informally as the Zulu War. The unilateral withdrawal and relocation of 121 active case dockets from KwaZulu-Natal to Pretoria, driven by internal distrust and allegations that were later retracted, stalled critical prosecution and degraded provincial policing operations. Recommendations, the National Commissioner must enforce a mandatory docket security protocol. No active investigative files may be removed from their local jurisdictions based on unverified analytical data or personal leadership disputes. Theme 7. Here, of course, we focus on restoring public confidence by ensuring the uniform application of accountability rules across all ranks. The committee finds that public trust in SAPS has been deeply eroded by the spectacle of senior commanders using unverified intelligence to launch mutual accusations of corruption and insubordination against each other. And when we were sitting here, none of them, no general, was willing to state for the record either one of the other that they alleged against is corrupt. That was frustrating to me, because if you make the allegation, all of them must come and say, I say this one is corrupt because this, that, and the other. But none of them did so. So that affected the public trust. As a recommendation, this final report, Chair, must append a formal witness credibility rectification matrix. This section must explicitly document everyone's testimony regarding financial corruption that was flawed fundamentally, and the fact that certain testimony was retracted, his own and that of others. The interactions with figures of interest require identical forensic scrutiny to ensure the rule of law is applied equally across SAPS. And then, Chair, I'm going to go to my input on the recommendation made by Honorable Nhlanhla, my very intellectual colleague. I seek to disagree with him on those recommendations that he made, that we must recommend that Honorable Adams and Patricia Mashale, Honorable Adams must be sent to ethics and Patricia Mashale must be investigated. I feel that this is a blatant attempt to penalize an official for refusing to complicitly participate in a compromise. The narrative that Honorable Adams acted in bad faith by not surrendering the documents that he had or the case where he opened up the cases is incorrect. And the reason why is because Honorable Adams explicitly testified that he withheld specific files and bypassed certain channels because he possessed a well-founded rational fear that the cases would be actively suppressed, destroyed, or buried by compromised elements within the SAPS. And as we know, in the hearings, it came out that his fears was real. And that's exactly what happened to those cases. I agree that the other entities which are investigating him, they should continue. Those independent entities should continue. Whatever cases, criminal cases may open up against him, that should continue. He must account. But here, us in Parliament, to send an honorable member to ethics because he came out and explained why he did what he did, and then others testified, generals testified that what he feared actually came to pass. His case dockets was locked up in a safe in an office and not investigated. So it is absurd, an absurd inversion of justice to demand an ethics investigation into the man who tried to prevent evidence from being hidden whilst remaining silent on the systematic corruption of police officials who literally locked criminal dockets in a safe to protect. Honorable Adams acted to preserve the integrity of the evidence, and his actions should be commended, not criminalized by this. However, the jury is still out on the criminal element of that by other entities who are investigating, who has charged him, and we will wait until the guilty verdict by those entities. Similarly to Ms. Patricia Mashale. Ms. Mashale's credibility must not be ignored, but it must be questioned, sure. But she came as a whistleblower, and she showed us years upon years how she sought to expose corruption within the system. And Section 1513(2) of the very report draft speaks of the fact that whistleblowers such as her should be protected. So as such, it is our position that people, not only Ms. Patricia Mashale, but also other whistleblowers came here, sat before us, risked their lives in many instances, and gave us information under oath that assisted us to get to this point. We should not create a precedence where we put more pressure on them and make them fear next time to come forward and bring experiences and proof of possible corruption in our institute. With that, Chairperson, I rest. I'll say thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member, using your time. The last submission is coming from none other than our own bank, the Honorable.
Well, thank you, Honorable. Quite honestly, I'm not going to take much of your time because there are really very many variances that one has with the already made recommendation. Safe to say that I do want also to put on record our appreciation and admiration for the manner in which you have acquitted yourself as chairperson of this process ever since we started. Upload, you have actually met. Sometimes things would get heated up. You maintained your. Thank you very much for that. Yes. Well, I think my view and our observation is that with regard to the definition of role between the executive authority and the accounting authority in this instance, National Commission, I would suggest that we actually zoom into that and actually attempt to get a clearer definition so that there shouldn't be any roles of these two authorities. I'm saying this because at the center of this process was whether or not the minister acted within his right to actually disband the PK. And on the other hand, the national believes that was his prerogative in terms of his mandate to do that. So we would need a clearer definition of the roles so that in future we prevent. I do want also to look at the current ranking regime that is there within SAPS. I would be very, content with a ranking system that would be transparent and also be based on merit and not necessarily on any other consideration. Because my fear is that you are going to end up with a top-heavy kind of a structure with a lot of generals who have actually very little operational experience. Because clearly some of the generals that we met here are people who actually were recruited in the private sector and they were parachuted, whether I'm not sure that that word is correct. They were promoted into or translated into brigadiers and generals, and when they have not actually even seen a docket, and then they end up being divisional, that's a serious responsibility. So I would imagine that it would be necessary at some point to review our ranking or grading. The vetting, the internal vetting also was a sore spot in our discussion. And you have very many leaders of the police service who actually have not been vetted, and that has resulted in disastrous consequences. And police service found itself being led by people who should not have actually been there in the first had vetting been. So I would imagine that we would make a strong case around the issue of vetting. In fact, not even vetting only, but also lifestyle audit. You would not understand, like myself as a layperson, why would a Major General actually operate 5 Ferraris or own 5 Ferraris. I may not be aware with the salary structures of various categories or ranks in SAPS, but it raises eyebrows when, a senior police officer becomes, opulent, so rich. So we would need to get into that as well. The crime intelligence division is a source of, great problem in the operation, and allegedly because of the existence of the secret fund, which is actually located within crime. One would actually plead for the introduction of some mechanism in the management and utilization of the fund that would actually ensure accountability and effective utilization of that fund. I'm not sure whether one can even add transparency. Now defeats the purpose because it is secret fund, therefore there can be no transparency. But there has to be some mechanism.
There can be an accountability mechanism.
Thank you. I think if we were to reinforce that, I'm sure we'll see lesser and lesser problems emanating from. My last point had to do with the role of IDAC. I think that needs to be reviewed because already there are quite a number of entities within SAPS that are focusing on corruption. So one wonders, why do we actually need an entity, IDAC, especially its current role is, from where I'm seated, I can see that IDAC is manipulated for some motives which have nothing to do with the investigation. Corrupt. It's now being used, to get each other. So I would actually submit that's all my.
Thank you so much, Bangazita. Can I check if there is anyone amongst that I could have, or who may have a point that they may have a sense of gross injustice if they live without having rest? You are now on the referee's optional time. I'm exercising this benevolence because it's the time of the World Cup. After 90 minutes, you have some 6 or 7 minutes, which is the referee's optional time. We will start with Honorable Breitenbach.
I thought we had a deal. You've got no idea how to do a contract.
I'm checking with you if you have anything you want to say. Let me note how many.
I said what I want to say.
Yeah, 3, 2 minutes. Honorable Nhlanhla.
I just need a few seconds, Chair. I just wanted to say, Honorable Ngongo must leave the issues of Ferraris to us. He must focus on Toyota Stallions and Pototos. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Skosana, you heard in Magazine that those ones are not for the veterans.
The only thing Ngola doesn't know that Mr. Mkhwanazi is a Range Rover. It's not on those things. He's talking Stallions. Thank you, Chair. I just want to wish to deposit this to you that it's been a long journey. And I hope that the issue of the witnesses, that if I remember well, that they'll be given a chance for the next 10 days because the deadline is on the 31st, if I remember well. Now, all what we deposited here hopefully is been captured by the admin team. And obviously, we won't agree to everything. And as I said when we started earlier, that you'll have minority opinion and majority opinion here. We'll always dissent. Some have got their own opinion like everyone else. But I want to emphasize once again, Chair, in the last 2 minutes, I've got one to go, that it is indeed critical for us all here that we behave in a manner that is not embarrassing this parliament. We are all equal before the law. Honorable Skosana is equal to any other member. There's no one who's above the law. The insinuations about other members, it's normal that, you'll always after that. But indeed, the issue of Honorable Ngola, which he emphasized earlier, will be tested. But I don't want to go back there because we've got offices, all of us there, and we requested that the parliamentary security personnel gets the evidence when it comes to the issue of an envelope, be put under the door. We need that on that particular dates. We need that camera. If that's the case, then we know that we have protected the integrity of this. It's not a gossip because now we can always speculate and say one is lying, this one is that. But we have cameras in this parliament. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Matthias.
Thank you, Chair. I skipped, it was in my hand notes, is that the report says that we had access to fighting, and while the terms of reference outlined how we would access, so that must in multiple paragraphs that we access station. And what we also missed is that issue of us having those scannings at our borders. So this is me responding to some of that has raised. So I think we must be able to find a where we give directly to the relevant department that what are they called, the border posts, those scannings. Mkhwanazi says there's only one in the whole country. So that's one of the recommendations to make it. And then just finally, and this to go on about the matter of the information regulator and civilians accessing our credit, etc. Paul O'Sullivan, that company that he says he's a member of is what is certified board of what. That company must be mentioned, and we prefer it. I should regulate the department. They must come and answer how they access this information. How do they give members? Because from what I understand, pay for a membership, and then you have access to this information. And our information regulator means that we have to sign, you have to give permission. So they can't put an answer outside of us investigating how Trent and Sullivan has it. But he mentioned this company multiple times that has qualified him as a forensic investigator. So I think that must be noted as well. And that's, I rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, let me thank you so much for your objective analysis, for your robustness and incisiveness. If you remember, all the witnesses that appeared before us, there is one important word that we mentioned when they were taking oath, that the evidence that they will be presenting before the committee will help it in its oversight responsibility. And I have heard many of you emphasizing it here, that the work that we are about to conclude and the report that we are going to produce must uphold the integrity of Parliament and reaffirm its oversight function. But very importantly, honorable members, we must demonstrate our vigorous intention, or we must vigorously demonstrate our to reinstill public confidence in the ability of Parliament to play its oversight. From where I'm standing, to a large extent, honorable members have agreed with the assessment or the broad thrust of the assessment that has been made by our evidence leaders and the content. Of course, there are important additions that have been made where some aspects would have lacking. There is only one honorable member, that is Honorable Skosana, who has said that he supports the findings and the recommendations that are made by them. And the point that we may need to check whether there is a convergence, a wholesale convergence between the recommendations of the evidence leaders and those of the, so that when the final draft is going to be considered for, are able to reconcile those recommendations. So what we will do, we will allow the court to cooperate those that have been made by members and highlight those where there is general agreement and where there is a dissonance in terms of would be put in other category, so that for the purpose of this adoption, we don't sit in a long meeting going through everything where in some areas there are agreement. We did not meet here today because we wanted to adopt the report. We met here to finalize the report. And if you remember, I said the reason why we must finalize it is because we must send it out to those witnesses that have appeared before us. They can make their own inputs and comments like we met here. And then we will come back and consider all those inputs and comments in the process of adoption. And I want to check with yourselves before we leave. Is there anything materially significant in the assessment that we have made, not the recommendation? Is there anything materially significant in the assessment find which may make it difficult for us to the report with the witness? Or if we may not be ready to respond to the question, I can say to you that let's allow the content team to go and finalize the submissions that you have made. And then we can call a virtual meeting to check only the findings and the assessment, analysis and assessment, because the report that we send out to the witnesses, our recommendations are not necessary. What is important is our assessment and the findings that the recommendations is for the committee to recommend in whatever way, and we can never in any way be influenced by anybody how we must recommend. But the comments and inputs that they will be making on the assessment and our findings can also help us to arrive at certain recommendations. So maybe instead of me bombarding you now to commit yourself to say there is nothing materially significant, can we allow the content team to go and incorporate these submissions that you have made, and then we can agree whether we meet very soon, maybe next week Monday, or to check if our assessment, if in our assessment and findings there is nothing material that can stop us. Is there any dissenting?
Chair, I'm not dissenting. I'm just making an additional. I want to propose that when they to us should also indicate where in the team there's alignment.
Yeah.
Also be very clear they are off, so that when we have a meeting, we see how do rather than, of course, we still have to see it, but I think what to be more urgent.
Can I check with yourselves, the outstanding team? How long will it take? Yeah. So the final draft will be available on Monday, and then the final draft will be available by Monday, so we can meet on Wednesday, so that members can have time to the final draft. If there are certain matters that you want to raise, agreed. Do members want the meeting physical or virtual? What are you doing? Can you motivate why you want? Let me rotate the motivation.
We're busy with communities, Chair. We candidate election.
No, I wanted to rotate the decision. No, honorable members, thank you so much. Yes. Is there anything you wanted to say, Honorable Matthys, before I thank the members and adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, you don't know. Even Neil, if you like. Chair, we're not opposed to virtual meetings, but we must also just be honest with ourselves that we much things. But I think when we schedule in that, we have reception that we are not doing other things move smoothly. It's generally our virtual meeting that is our thing.
Do you also want the adoption to be virtual or virtual, physical, virtual? Okay. There is only one member saying physical. So, honorable members, we have come to the end of today's meeting. Thank you so much for being businesslike. This meeting was built for 2 days. You did it on 1 day. You are the best team to work with. Thank you so much.